That's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar. That's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar. That's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Another afternoon in the sports bar, Rochester's only local sports talk show. We are open to anything and attached to nothing. Welcome on in. It's nice that in a world that can be so divisive, we can all agree that Aaron Rodgers is completely insufferable.
Yeah, there's not too much we can all kind of agree on, but who is the person out there like, I love that guy. Like he's fantastic. I want him as my quarterback. Even if you said, yeah, I would take him, you're still holding your nose.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you this question.
Yeah.
As far as put this ratio, okay, amount of time we, and I don't mean we in the sports bar, I mean we collectively, talk about someone versus their relevancy in the sport today. Is there just a bigger disparity than Aaron Rodgers? Because he's right now the 25th best quarterback maybe in the NFL. He's 41 years old. He's not leading a team to a Super Bowl, but yet we all had to drop everything today.
Yeah, we did. And we did drop everything today to hear what Aaron Rodgers had to say. And his appearance on McAfee today wasn't a nothing. We did learn some things, and we'll get into that here this afternoon in the sports bar. We got a fun show lined up for you. We are officially 1 week away from football Christmas, the NFL draft, and we'll be at Three Heads on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the Arts starting at 3 o'clock. We invite you to join us. Have a nice, cold, kind IPA. It's always a great time for a kind IPA. And I'm going to allow myself to suspend belief in reality that winter might actually be over, that this, what feels like fake spring today, might actually stick around, and that we might be blessed with an unbelievable afternoon 1 week from today when we're there at Three Heads. We invite you to come out and sample everything that they have to offer, talk some Buffalo Bills, talk some NFL draft, our pre-draft draft party at Three Heads coming up a week from today.
And if you've never been to one of our shows, I promise you, we're going to make some time following the show just a little bit, and it's a lot of fun, and get to meet some people that some people make friends at the show. So it's a fantastic time.
We're all just a happy band of misfits and regulars to the sports bar. So come on out and join us next Thursday from 3 until 6. This afternoon, we've got a great guest lineup for you, including Ryan Talbot at NewYorkUpstate.com. Talbot's been doing an unbelievable job of tracking the Bills' pre-draft visitors, all at Syracuse.com, and we'll get into some of that with Ryan when he joins us at 4:25.
Yeah, it's a lot of work chasing down who's coming in, and I'm not talking about Bradbury there, the corner, the veteran corner. We're talking about these draftees, these hopefuls, and there's a pattern. We'll let Ryan tell you, it's not a nothing when the Bills bring in guys. You can tell what positions they're targeting. We all know what positions they're targeting, but what is the percentage of guys that actually come in for visits do the Buffalo Bills end up drafting? We'll talk to Ryan Talbot, New York Upstate. And you know what? We'll ask him to plant his flag as well. I know he loves the safety there from Notre Dame, according to Matt Perino, but we'll let Ryan tell us here coming up at 4:25.
Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, Buffalo Plus, stops by as he does every Thursday afternoon. He's joining us here in about 20 minutes or so.
As much as I want to poke fun at his Atlanta Braves.
Don't do it.
They lost yesterday.
You just said it, it's a long season. You said it right before we got on the air. But peek behind the curtain here in the sports bar. A clip crossed my feed from our Odyssey Sports sister station in New York City, WFAN, and Sal, who does, I believe he does middays.
Sal Licata.
Sal Licata does middays or afternoons. He was just eviscerating Juan Soto, just tearing into Soto on the heels of the Mets losing a series to the Twins. And you said it kind of under your breath. It's a long season. It's a long season.
It is. Well, this time last year, they were tearing in the Francisco Lindor, who got in afterwards to hot start. If it's not Ohtani, he's the MVP. So did I like the Mets losing a series of the Twins? No, not at all. But as Sterling once said, it's baseball. It's a long year.
Marked the time. Dan Fates will stop by, and Gene will hold his tongue and not say anything about the slow start.
No.
To
Just
the
go to
Braves.
Fates' Twitter feed. His X feed, I'm sorry. It's just this team sucks. This team can't hit. Like somebody who covers the Buffalo Bills as well as anybody on the beat. Objective takes where the Bills are headed, but yet for a different team, a different sport he doesn't cover, he turns into super fan, and I think that's interesting.
Well, we all have our teams, right? We all have the teams that we go absolutely fanatical for. If it's not the Buffalo Bills, you have yours. I have mine. And for Dan, it's those Atlanta Braves. We'll have him in here in like 20 minutes or so. We'll talk some draft with Dan Fates as well. You're welcome to join us anytime this afternoon on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com.
Table is set, 866-4326. I'm waiting for 1 week from tonight because it's the night where we'll get the next update from Aaron Rodgers, what he decides to do. Isn't that the most predictable outcome?
I don't think it is, man. I mean, here's where I come down on everything that Rodgers. There's a few things that I think are of note from Rodgers' appearance today. And by doing this, I think we've reached our quota for the week. We haven't really talked about him at all this week, but we're bringing it up now because he made his appearance. And he had a lot to say. And he basically made it known that he's told teams that he would play, but only for $10 million. So assume that the reason why he hasn't signed with anybody at this point is because they're not offering him $10 million, that there isn't a team in the NFL right now that values Rodgers at 1 year, $10 million. And with that, I actually think to myself, you know what? If I'm the Saints, if I'm the Steelers, $10 million is a small price to pay for what you would get out of Aaron Rodgers. I would take that. I would actually take Aaron Rodgers at $10 million if I was a desperate team in need of quarterback.
You would really have to be desperate because let's just take the Saints, for example, okay? They shouldn't because they should secretly tank, number one. Number two, whoever is on that offense, it's the new head coach's offense, right? You bring in Aaron Rodgers, you're running the Aaron Rodgers offense. That's the way it should be, right? Yep. Like you're going to cater to him, and why would you do that for 1 year? If it's the Steelers and you're just going to try to catch lightning in a bottle and he's healthy and let's just go, and then he can get you to the postseason, I don't doubt that. But even Pittsburgh has a price. And to hear that they're not willing to go to $10 million for Aaron Rodgers, I think it's kind of noteworthy. How about this? This kind of hit me today. What if the Steelers are actually using Aaron Rodgers as a smokescreen? Meaning all along the Steelers are going to try to trade up for Shedeur Sanders. And you know what? We're just going to entertain this, Aaron Rodgers storyline, knowing that, okay, if you want to come here for what we paid Russell Wilson 1 year, $1 million, by all means, but we're not going to go beyond that.
I think if you paid 1 year, $1 million for Russell Wilson and you got what you got out of Wilson, I think 1 year, $10 million for Rodgers is reasonable for Pittsburgh. But I would also say if Pittsburgh said, yeah, we value him differently because we kind of understand what he is in the locker room, I wouldn't fault them for walking away or for offering him what they're offering him. I will also say that he all of his dramatics aside, his taking his time here to decide on his future is entirely within his rights. And we forget that this is his first time as a free agent. He knows his price. He's marked himself as $10 million. And if a team wants to pay for a 4-time MVP, for a future Hall of Famer, for a Super Bowl champion, then we'll get another season of Rodgers. But I don't know that we should be mad at him for taking his time. I know that it feels very deliberate. I think it is deliberate that, it's been kind of quiet and he all of a sudden appears on McAfee and here we are talking about him again. Mm-hmm. I think that feeds into who he is as a personality. But even as he suggested today, he's not going to be the difference between winning another Lombardi or missing the playoffs. He's just not. So you as a team need to decide $10 million, yes, no, okay. And he said it. Retirement is not off the table. We maybe have seen the last of Aaron Rodgers, and wouldn't it be something? I mean, it's not like the Jets did him any favors on the way out either.
Okay, retirement's not off the table. okay, if nobody wants you, it's going to look like a retirement. Okay, so yeah, that's spin doctoring. This guy knows, Danger, that the best way for him to live the lifestyle he does and to have his name in the headlines is to continue to play. Because the second he kind of goes away, you become Mr. Ball. LeVar Ball. Remember, he was like, remember there was one spring, summer where he was every day commenting on his sons and getting under LeBron's skin. And, well, now he's, I saw, unfortunately, that he lost a leg or whatever it was, but now he's not in the headlines. Aaron Rodgers, like you mentioned right off the top, just a personality that, my gosh, name me people that in our history we enjoyed. We loved Aaron Rodgers. He was the guy that took over, and it was fun in Green Bay, and he's doing those witty commercials for insurance. And, yeah, then that all changed.
Favre.
Yeah.
It's Favre.
It's Favre all over again.
Favre all over again. He's the same. It really hits me as like the same personality, the same kind of, needing of the attention, but shucks, I'm not really actively looking for the attention, but getting the attention. But in this instance, and we mentioned this earlier in this process, like I really don't blame the guy for taking his time, for being thoughtful with his intentions here in terms of what I want to make and whether or not I want to continue to play. And if I can't get the $10 million, yeah, maybe I'll take care of myself and be worry about those in my inner circle and hang it up.
Well, he's smart enough to know too that come August, oops, oh my gosh, we have this injury. Like that's happened before. Like 1 year, like when we first got on the air, and like Sam Bradford had to go to Minnesota because Teddy Bridgewater's knee imploded. I don't wish that to happen, but for the team that does happen to, that's your first call. It's an affordable call. And Aaron Rodgers, like, what does he care? He doesn't want to be there in the spring. He didn't want to be there last year for the Jets. He was watching the pyramids or whatever it was.
I think it's so funny, speaking of the Jets, to hear how that all went down. I mean, Rodgers did not hold back on the new regime in Aaron Glenn and the new GM in New York in terms of how that ended. He flew across the country on his own dime, anticipating that they would have a conversation about his future with the team. Well, that conversation lasted 15 minutes. They basically said, do you want to play or not? And they said, we're moving in a different direction. So there was no intention of Aaron Glenn keeping Aaron Rodgers. And he even said that the thought was that Rodgers would undermine him as a new head coach.
Yeah.
Because he would.
He would. And anybody that signs up for this crazy, and it's crazy, and heck, you've probably signed up for crazy at some point in your life, and you weigh the pros and the cons, and Aaron Rodgers is a 1-year sugar buzz. That's it. And that's the best case scenario, Danger. He's 41. That's why you bring up the Saints. No, the Saints should be looking to the future. So should the Steelers. But the Steelers are going to pay what, and they're going to go all in. Why not? Entertain us.
What do you think the outcome is when this is all said and done? I'll plant my flag. You do yours.
Okay. The Steelers are not moving off their mark. All of a sudden, you don't have Aaron Rodgers going 1 year, $10 million. As much as for the comic relief of that getting announced next Thursday, right as we're doing our show at Three Heads Brewing, I don't see that happening. I see camps opening up across the league, and he's still out there, and we still don't have a decision. I mean, you brought up the Favre analogy. There's 1 year he's down on his farm, and the Viking teammates went down. Oh, shucks, guys. All right, I'll come back and play. Different scenario, a little bit, certainly. But for Aaron Rodgers, he could sit out there right to the end, and maybe there is a new opportunity, Danger. Maybe there's a team that was trying to get a quarterback in this draft, and they didn't get what they wanted, and all right, let's go to the other option here for a year.
I think he's done. I think we've seen the last of Aaron Rodgers in the NFL. I think today was a step towards making an official announcement that he's going to retire from the NFL. Box wine bet? Come on, man.
I can't.
Oh!
Box one bet!
Box wine bet!
Box one bet!
You're in trouble, pal.
I am not in trouble. That is easy money.
You're in trouble.
Easy money. But see, now you're doing our listeners a disservice because now we're going to be paying attention to this stupid Aaron Rodgers just so I can go blah, 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 drink my wine this summer. That's an easy
all
bet.
right, so-
Roll the tape.
So that's it. It's cut and dry. Rodgers is playing in the NFL in 2025, or he is not playing in the NFL in 2025. I say he's retiring.
So, for the purpose of this, week 1, if there's not if he's not on the roster and he's not retired, I'm not paying up until we hear retired or we get to the end of the 2025 season. Fair? Is that those are the parameters?
Why are we changing the parameters after it's cut and dry? He either plays or he doesn't. He's either retired or he's playing.
Okay.
You think there's gray area there where he might say, I'm retiring, but a team calls him in the middle of the season and he just says, oh, yeah, sure, I'll come and play. You think that'll actually happen? You think that's a possibility?
Of course it is. No. What I'm saying is if he says nothing and we get to week 1 and he's still sitting out there, I'm not paying up until we hear the word
retired.
I am retired.
All right. So I'll be expecting payment at some point in 2026, you think? I won't get payment by the start of the 2025 season.
Let me remind you, okay, that you're only on a 1-box winning streak, all right?
I got a pretty good track record, Gino. I got a pretty good record here in the sports bar for the box wine bet. If you're new to the show, history of the sports bar, there have been times where, like this, where we kind of say to ourselves, what could happen? Like, what's the scenario? How's it going to play out? And Gino and I don't always see eye to eye. We view things through different lenses. Most recently, the boxed wine bet, where the winner gets a box of wine. This is kind of like the Trading Places dollar bill bet that the Mortimer and Randolph have at the end. It's just a box of wine. It's nothing serious.
Thankfully, because okay, so we're on a little bit of a delay here. I would have gotten a text right away or a call. So I'm guessing the executive producer, she's teaching class or she's doing something.
You should not be hiding anything from your...
No, we're not. I'm not telling her.
You need to tell her, Gene.
I'm not telling her.
You're going to be in big trouble. You're going to be in big trouble if you don't tell her. Tell her. Be honest. Say, I may have made a mistake. I bet a box of wine with danger that Aaron Rodgers is going to play in 2025. He thinks he's going to retire, and history has shown he's usually right in these box wine bets. My record overall is what, 3-1? I think 3-1 is my record over the course of time. Carson Wentz
was a big pull for you.
Carson Wentz was big. Everybody thought I was crazy. I'm like, the Eagles are moving off of this guy. Catalana follows the team. That's his team. He's like, they're not moving on from Carson Wentz. I'm like, they are. They're done with him. The cap hit. I'm like, screw the cap hit. He's gone.
Mike Catalana doesn't appreciate imitations of Mike Catalana.
Well, I will say that I remember that conversation. Nobody cares when I'm right. And the most recent one, this last season, me saying Bill Belichick was done in the NFL, that he was not returning to the NFL. And we made it through this coaching cycle where there was still a chance, right? Like, oh, maybe he is. Maybe he will. Not when he took the North Carolina gig, Gino paid up. I've had a couple of very good boxes of wine, courtesy of Mr. Battaglia across from me over here, and so much so that the executive producer, his wife, has banned him
me
from making box wine bets with yours truly.
This is too easy, though.
That's what they all say. That's what they all say, Gene. I mean, it's just free money. It's just sitting there, right? You got to make that bet. Who wouldn't take that bet? You got to.
Wait a second. Did you lure me into a trap?
The tone of Rodgers today leads me to believe he is closer to retiring than he is to going back and playing. And I think last year he was actually not as invested as we've seen in the past. You mentioned it. He was in Egypt during training camp or whatever it was. Like, the guy wants to live his life. He wants to take care of his people. He wants to he doesn't want to deal with the crap. And the way the Jets did him at the end, where he had to fly across the country just to have Aaron Glenn, of all people, tell him we're going in a different direction. No conversation, no nothing. He felt disrespected. He basically, blew a blowtorch to the organization. Like, they've got some things to figure out. When Aaron Rodgers is saying, you've got some things you've got to figure out, your organization is a mess.
I'm so happy looking this up right now. I'm going to do this for our viewers. I could do the Macarena right now. Hey, I just want to dance here. The odds. You didn't even look up the odds.
No, I did not.
Because Vegas doesn't want to lose money. right? It's plus money right now on him retiring. Plus 430.
Mm-hmm. I like value.
It's a straight up bet. I'm not giving you 4 boxes of wine compared to 1. That's not the way this works.
Do you want to give me 4 boxes of wine if I win?
No.
Why are you bringing up the odds, Gino? It's a straight bet.
I'm bringing up the odds because that is in my favor.
Of course it's in your favor.
Me.
Right. Nobody said Carson Wentz was going to leave Philadelphia. Everybody thought Bill Belichick would coach again in the NFL. Nobody cares when I'm right. I will be right on this again.
Okay, so this is what I need to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, please sign with the Steelers, sign with anybody before next Thursday. So when we get to 3 heads, although the guys at 3 heads are going to be like box of wine. If it ends up before then, I'll take a 6-pack of the kind or
you
whatever.
A 6-pack of the kind? I'll give you a case. I'll give you a case of the kind. Oh, Bob, hell, I'll roll up a keg to your place, and you can put a keg on your back deck and enjoy it all summer long. Keep it on ice. I feel good about this. I have 0 regrets about making this box wine bet. You, my friend, better fess up to the executive producer tonight. Just tell her, I know you banned me from doing this. I couldn't help myself. Easy money.
No.
She's going to say what I just said. That's what they all say, Gino. Yeah, of course it's easy money.
No, I'm going to come home at some time in June, and I'll have a box wine. What is that? Oh, it's from Danger. Did you make a bet? And I'll be like, oh, no, Danger just kind of gave it to me as a Father's Day present.
So generous, magnanimous of me out of nowhere just to give you a box of wine. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, we'll keep tabs on it. Unfortunately.
By the way, these bets are more fun than the Maggie Perloff ones where I'm going to make you eat something disgusting or whatever. I'd rather have a good payoff at the end for the winner.
Well, I mean, a good payoff would be a bourbon bet, not a box wine bet. But we'll do a box wine because I know you're not much of a bourbon guy.
Also, when I win, I don't want your Sandy to just say, "Hey, what are you doing spending all that money on good bourbon for Gino?"
I would. She wouldn't mind. She would understand. For the executive producer not listening now, that's a rarity, right? For Sandy not listening to the show, that's the rule. Like she just doesn't. She wouldn't. She'd get it. It's all for the show, baby. All right, we gotta get to Dan Fates. Hey, let's get Fatesy's take on this. See what he thinks. Who does he side with? And we'll, of course, talk some Buffalo Bills. Any interest in James Bradbury at corner? And what about these pre-draft visits as we are 1 week away from the NFL draft from Buffalo Plus and 13 Web Sports? Dan Fates, our guest, next on The Fan.
You're listening to the
It's Brian Green from the Commercial Break Podcast. It's likely you've heard of the show if you're directly related to me or you follow our MySpace page. But I'm not here to talk to those three listeners. I'm here to appeal to people who haven't heard the show. Along with my co-host, Kristen Joy Hoadley, we're taking a deeper look at the topics that are affecting our youth today. Like, who are the people who are dating ghosts? Where did all these pickup artists come from? And why doesn't my preacher have a nicer private jet? We understand that these are the issues you really want to get to the bottom of. The Commercial Break is now available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcasts.
This hour of The Fan Rochester is brought to you by Robert Half.
At Robert Half, we found that 67% of companies want to increase contract talent. That's why our recruiters' expertise and award-winning AI work quickly to find the candidates you want. At Robert Half, we know talent. Visit roberthalf.com/talent today.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
1 week from tonight, it's the NFL Draft. The Bills right now sitting at pick 30 overall. Chris Passo today on One Bills Drive, talking about value.
For the Bills, last year, 10 selections. This year, they're going in with 10 selections. That is the best way to do exactly what you just said. Keep the team as a playoff or Super Bowl contender throughout a decade. And that's really hard to do in the NFL.
Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus. Dan joining us next here in the Sports Bar. Rochester Red Wings, a doubleheader today coming up. Worcester is the opponent. First pitch in Game 1 coming up at 3:35. On the Major League scoreboard, Marlins are trailing Arizona 6-4. They're in the ninth. Reds leading the Mariners 7-5 in the eighth. The A's are up on the White Sox 2-0. We've got the Sabres tonight. Final game of the season, they take on Philadelphia. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the Sports Bar, it's Danger and Battaglia. Always excited to talk to Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports, Buffalo Plus, joins us every week at this time. And Dan, because we're obligated to, and he spoke to Pat McAfee today, help us break a tie. Where are you at with Aaron Rodgers right now, besides the rest of us, where we're all sick of Aaron Rodgers right now? Is he playing in 2025, or do you think he's hanging it up and retiring before the season starts?
I think it's up. Listening to him talk, what I was most turned off by or most grossed out by was the fact that he goes, I don't owe anything to anybody and all this stuff. When you hear franchise quarterbacks or even any quarterback, backup quarterbacks, they owe it to the guys in the locker room. And Aaron's arrogance of, well, I don't owe it to anybody. And then imagine him walking into your locker room like, yeah, I'm contemplating retirement, but I don't owe it to you guys. But sure, I guess I'll play quarterback for you for a little bit. Yeah, I guess. I'll do it for a couple $1 million. I don't really need the money. Like, so out of touch with what is the reality of life in the NFL for a guy that has been around for so long. And I know he thinks his own way, and that's not like, that's another story. I just don't understand how he is lacks so much self-awareness to what his words mean and the messages that he's sending across of, I may retire, I may not, I don't know. Like, what NFL GM would hitch their wagon to a guy that sounds like that? I think it's a hard sell to a fan base. I think it's a hard sell to your locker room and your team for a guy that's like, I don't really care all that much. I was just like, of course, this is Aaron Rodgers. And he'll probably make some announcement next Thursday because he will try and get the attention and steal it from the draft because that is the ego that he has.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, him putting out their $10 million. Can we just go, ... What were the Steelers really offering there, Dan?
Yeah. Like, it's just unbelievable. In fact, again, Steelers, which are such a prestigiously well-run organization throughout the history of the NFL, to let this clown come in and try and call his shots is just, it's crazy to me. But I guess that is the status quo for Aaron Rodgers. Again, if they want to offer him a couple $1 million, sure, but Aaron said, I don't need to play for that much money, just $10 million. It's like, yeah, it must be nice.
I feel really good about the box wine bet after hearing Dan open up with his thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, Gene.
I'm confident this guy can't help himself. Some team, Dan, maybe, for the purpose of this, if he announces retirement Thursday, can I wait until week 1 to pay up the bet just to make sure, or do I have to pay up right then and there?
You'd have to wait till week 1 because if somebody gets injured, his ego will make sure that he's in the news again and enforce the team. But again, it's this thought of like, oh, I may play, I may retire. I don't know anybody. It's like, to some respects, like I think the league may speak and just say like we don't want to deal with this anymore. We don't want to deal with this circus. And it's not worth it.
No, you're right. I mean, what you said about an NFL GM, hearing that out of your potential starting quarterback, not really inspiring for your team or for your locker room. As we speak with Dan Fates, 13 Web Sports, Buffalo Plus, joining us here in the Sports Bar. All right, we're a week away from football Christmas, Dan. Everybody's kind of sharpening their takes. Everybody's honing in on their favorite prospects and where they might go in Thursday's first round. Have you planted a flag in your Buffalo Bills draft crush? Do you know who you'd like the Bills to take if they stay at 30? Have you played these scenarios out? I'm sure you've done plenty of mocks, and you've got a handful of guys that you think would be worthy of that number 30 overall pick.
Yeah, I was deep in the simulator game yesterday. We recorded our podcast, and I think Kenneth Grant goes before 30. And that's kind of the vibe. I just feel like I think it could be Pittsburgh that's trying to revamp a defensive line. I just think his stock seems to be rising, and the buzz around that where it was like, oh, maybe the Bills could trade back and get Grant. I think they'd like him if he's on the board. I'm just coming to the realization I don't think he's going to be there. So you kind of start switching gears then about, well, is there another defensive tackle you would love there at 30? And I don't know where the value would be with the risk of trading back, because it's easier said than done. I know people says, like, we always joke around about it. Oh, the Bills should trade up or the Bills should trade back. Well, there has to be another team that wants to do that as well, or the opposite. So I don't know, especially with this draft, you always hear, well, a lot of teams are going to want to trade back. Well, that means you got to find teams that want to trade up and give up draft capital to get into this range of that second to third round where this seems like the meat and potatoes of this draft is. So I looked at it and I go, I think at 30, the Bills will get pretty much their choice of whatever corner they want. And I did my research into Max Harrison and Azaria Thomas and some of these guys. I just really come down to it. I really like Trey Amos. I think he's a perfect fit. I think he's a really nice blend between an athlete and the physical abilities with all of the other stuff that he can do with the intangibles and the coachability, all this stuff. I like the raw player talent-wise, and I think it fits with Buffalo. I know Harrison's another guy that has visited with the Bills and things like that, but he's 5'11", and the first thing you read about his draft profile is liability in the run game. Like, that just doesn't sound like a guy that the Bills would want. So it's not just, look, people are going to mock and do prospects and where they think these players are, but they may not be mocking them exactly to the fit and scheme of which each individual team needs. So if a team doesn't want necessarily their motto, they want more of an athlete and things like that, then I think Maxwell Harrison is a really good player. But I think right now he's a nickel and is a liability in the tackling game, and the Bills have Taron Johnson, and they really stress being able to tackle. So that's kind of where I landed on it. Azaria Thomas is another good player I like, but I don't think he's an athlete and twitchy enough for the Bills to take it at 30. So I think they stay put. I think they have a harder time, even though we'll hear afterwards, we took plenty of calls, guys. Our phones were ringing off the hook and all this stuff. I'd be very happy with Trey Amos as the guy that I'm planting my flag in, as the corner that I want.
Dan, I have convinced myself, and now I'm going to try to convince you as a lawyer here, that not only will this happen, this is what should happen for the Buffalo Bills. And it's not sexy, okay? It's actually a trade down. Brandon Beane, yeah. I do believe this, and he's going to talk on Tuesday, but the question that we all want to know, I'm sure he's not going to answer, like, how many actual guys do you have first-round grades on? I'm going to guess the answer isn't 30. And you're right. It's easier said than done to trade up or trade down, but the clue here is there aren't going to be that many quarterbacks that go at the top of the draft, but there are quarterback-needy teams, and if they're being true to their board, if you're the Giants, you're the Browns, but then, hey, you know what? We got to get something. We like Jalen Milroe. He's still on the board, but we don't want to wait because there's these other teams. I would think there would be an opportunity for Buffalo to move back. And what would Buffalo get in return? A third-round pick, maybe? Sign me up for that. Maybe you could take that third-rounder and whatever else at the end of this draft and move back into the second round. I think there's tremendous value for Buffalo actually moving down in this draft.
I agree. Like, Gina, I'm with you. I would like them to trade back and to try and get 3 picks in the second round. I think that would be great. And if you could add a third-round pick, that's all fine and dandy. I just don't know, because I know there'll be a lot of teams that are also around there that will also need to add draft capital. You look at the Rams are a team that doesn't have a ton, so there are teams that could call the Rams, and they could also sneak in there. So, like, it's a lot of moving parts. I agree. I think this is the first year that I have taken my medicine, and I would be stunned for being to trade up. Stunned. I think it's more likely that he trades back. I just think it's going to be difficult to trade back. So I think that I'm resigned to look. I think a lot of people have Trey Amos late first round, early second round, but do you risk that and then Maxwell goes and Siobhan Ravel go? Like, all of a sudden then you're kind of caught with your pants down. Like, I know Bean last year very badly wanted to get out of the first round. That's crystal clear. I just don't know how easy it will be this year with so many teams, I feel like, also wanting to do that.
Dan, when you talk about all of the pre-draft visits and all of the chatter, and we know that there's a handful of needs defensively, are we viewing this the wrong way? Ty Dunn from Go Along put out a piece that basically says, hey, if you're the Buffalo Bills, go get that piece that might make a difference for your offense, score more than anybody else out there, and make Matthew Golden your future wide receiver one by drafting the guy that a lot of people comp to Garrett Wilson of the Jets out of Texas there. Your thoughts on wide receiver and whether or not that even makes any sense at all for this team in round one?
Well, it felt like it made a lot more sense last year, and Bean did the exact opposite of what we had. So, and I know there was somebody that was talking to me or was responding to one of our videos that said there wasn't a first-round wide receiver to trade up for if the Bills did that, because it was very funny. Jenna made some comment. Mike said, what if this is the year that he trades up and gets a wide receiver? Would it surprise us? And Jenna had the perfect answer of, no, it wouldn't surprise me because he's a man and they never do what you want them to do when you want them to do it, which was just perfect answer from Jenna. So I like Matthew Golden a lot. I just don't see a world that he gets past Arizona at 16. So, and I'm all for, again, if one of these, if you see Grant at 25, last year it was Brian Thomas that we were all kind of like, hey, he could be the guy if he's there. He was there and they didn't make the move up. Now, again, how difficult was it to move up? We all sit there in our head and go, just trade up. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it. I'm sure their phones are ringing off the hook. I have more of an issue with the defense in the sense of they need athletes. You look at what Kansas City has with Chris Jones and somebody and Chenal and these guys, like, they got dudes. And I don't really think, and Chris Trapasso was actually talking about this on one of the other podcasts I was listening to, I think the Bills have gotten the most from Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott coaching up guys that are just okay athletes. Like, they don't have the top-end freaks. And on offense, you have Josh, which has proven can make a lot work. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of adding and giving more things to Josh. I've been banging that drum for 3 years. I think the drum's just kind of broken in my house, and I'm just more focused on let's get some athletes on the defensive side that maybe could get Josh some shorter fields and get off the field on third down and work that way. So I would love them to trade up and draft a wide receiver. I've been saying that for the last 3 years. I'm just kind of over it, and I'm more resigned to the fact that I expect these picks in their first and their 2 second-round picks to be some combination of corner, defensive tackle, edge rusher, and a possibility of a safety. Like, those are just what I'm resigned to doing, and then maybe finding a Troy Horton or something like that in the third, fourth rounds. Maybe that's where they can package some things up to move. But I've had my heart broken too many times, guys, selling out for a wide receiver, and I just don't have it in me this year.
So I think we all kind of think, all right, the Bills are certainly going to focus on defense. But my question here for you, Dan Fates, Buffalo plus 13 Wham. To what extent would you be okay with it? Because traditionally, Brandon Beane will go right down the middle. It's funny. Like, it's usually kind of equal, offense and defense. Okay, 10 picks. If, say, you stay at 10 picks, Would you be okay with 8 on defense, 9 on defense? Like, would you be okay if things are tilted dramatically toward one side of the field?
First off, I don't want 10 picks. I don't think they need 10 picks. I'd much rather see them package and move up, whether it's day 2, whether that's day 3, and find their guy. Where again, we talk about the meat and potatoes of the draft, but
Agreed.
having all their 6-round picks and 7-round picks, who cares? Now again, you're gonna have to find a team that is okay and wants more 7th-round picks. My mock draft, I kind of had the Bills moving up in the 2nd round to pick 43 with San Fran, and giving up the Bills' 2nd-round pick, keeping their second-round pick. Stay with me here. And then it was like their 4th, 5th, and a 6th. Now, again, San Fran's a team that needs to kind of retool their roster. They need some guys to add to some depth. The Bills have depth. They don't have high-end guys. So I had them jumping ahead of Atlanta in that 2nd round because I think Atlanta needs a lot of D-line help as well. They got no pressure on their on the opposing quarterbacks last year, and I had them taking Darius Alexander at 43. So those are some of the things to move around. That being said, Gene, I would expect 60% of the picks. I can't give you a number. I'll say 60% of the picks to be on the defensive side of the ball and 40% being on the offense. That's how I guess I map it out in my head. And again, I'd love to see some weapons added for Josh. I wish last year we said I would have thought last year they would have walked away from the draft going they got 3 wide receivers. They walked away with 1, and we're still not sure how good that 1 they walked away with. So whether that's day 2 late taking a wide receiver, whether that's day 3 kind of emptying the clip and trying to find as many as they can to add some explosiveness, some versatility, some strong attributes to this offense. That's where I've been the last 2 years. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about these guys are so versatile and they're so well-rounded. I don't want a pitcher that can throw 6 pitches. I want a guy that has a 102-mile-per-hour fastball because that pitcher doesn't need 6 pitches. Those are the kind of athletes that I want to have strong traits more than this guy's so well-rounded. He blocks well. He does this route well. I want a guy that if you want to add speed, get a guy that runs a 4.3. Get a guy that can run by people, and Josh can air it out to him. That's what I'm looking for offensively.
Dan, what about the early portion of the 1st round? Do you think the draft starts at 2 with Cleveland, or is it a foregone conclusion that it's Travis Hunter there? What about the Giants at 3? We all kind of assume that Cam Ward is going to go number 1 overall to Tennessee at this point.
Yeah, definitely Cam Ward. Did you guys see his stream that he was doing the other day?
No.
He was asked who are the best wide receivers in the league, and he said Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Calvin Ridley, and Treylon Burks. And then he was asked who the best running backs were, and he said Tajay Spears and the Titans are the running backs. So, yeah, he's a Titan. Like, okay, we can all start there. And I think Travis Hunter is too good of a player, of a generational talent to pass up if you're Cleveland. I know he said that he wants to play both sides of the ball. I don't see why you wouldn't at least try that. He seems like a guy that has really does have a really good head on his shoulders. And, you know, the Giants are so interesting, guys. It's just so tricky. And my heart breaks for my boy Dable. They are in a tough spot. But I just don't think it's crazy how quickly Jackson Dart is that guy that's rising up boards and Shadour's kind of falling. And where could all of this, you know, the slipping go there? But I think the draft kind of starts at 3.
We're talking to Dan Fates, 13 Wham Buffalo Plus, as the NFL draft 1 week from tonight. Dan, the lead up to that, you will have Brandon Beane talking to the Bills media on Tuesday. Yeah. But then I thought it was very interesting who they're making available next week. I don't know if there's another team that's putting their franchise quarterback 2 days before the draft talking to reporters, but the opportunity to hear from Josh Allen. And if Josh Allen has a voice when it comes to the draft or building this roster, I think that's the rare exception. I welcome that, Dan.
Yeah, and I think Josh even made the joke, I think it was last year, that whoever he tells Bean to pick, he picks. And apparently he was very high on Dalton Kincaid. We also have heard that he liked Keon Coleman as another one of those guys. So I think Josh does have a say, especially on those offensive decisions that are being made. And look, we haven't gotten to talk to Josh in person since the contract extension. We haven't gotten to do that. And again, he is the face of the franchise on both sides of the ball. I mean, he is Buffalo. So I know he's talked before at times where it's like they have these workouts in shorts and T-shirts and they go over hurdles and they stretch and throw around medicine balls. So, like, we have seen this a little bit before. But I'm sure Josh will be very coy. He'll say that he has, guys on his radar and that he's talked to Bean and that he's done his YouTube research and scouted guys. So I'm excited to hear from Josh, as always.
Dan, what's your best prediction of what happens with the Buffalo Sabres here going into this weekend locker cleanout coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, sad. Yes, and I'm just not the type of guy. I'm probably not the guy to ask that. I don't have these rose-colored glasses looking at this team and going into next year and will they finish the year strong? And to my opinion, it's kind of like the NBA in March. Like, a lot of teams don't care. The Sabres weren't facing top goalies. Playoff teams were resting. Like, I just am not – I'm not buying what they're selling. I think there are some core pieces. I'm much more focused and excited about what the Amerks are doing. And
yes.
Will Kulich play in the AHL playoffs for Rochester and Tyson Kozak? And I sat down with Devin Levi last week. So, look, I just it seems like it's a never-ending cycle of hope, despair, and then you just lather, rinse, repeat. Lindy said if we could have only gotten rid of this 13-game losing streak, it's like, yeah. Greg Williams used to say, if we could eliminate all the big running plays, we'd have a really good running defense. Like, yeah, that's not how this works. So I guess I'm very jaded now at this point as to what the Sabres will tell us in the media.
Yeah, Dan, you brought up the name that raises my blood pressure, not because of him. I think Yuri Kulich is great. I think you lead the Amerks. But if they roll out this nonsense that he's an NHL player, like they did for UPL back in 2023, mind you, he's never played a professional playoff game ever, UPL, and look at him now here 2 years later, looking and holding on for his life. The idea that Kulich could stay up in Buffalo, and we're going to give more ice time to some other prospect because it's about development. Dan, I swear to you, that will set me off tomorrow if they don't send back Kulich.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me, and we've seen that over these last few years of development and winning, and the culture in Rochester is good. And I'm not just trying to blow smoke up people's skirts here. Like, it's a good culture. They enjoy being winning here. And I remember, like, hearing things that when the Sabres were bad, when it was O'Reilly and Eichel, and it was a toxic locker room, and then when players got sent down, it's like I even asked Devin Levi, I go, people assume that when you get called up to the NHL, it's awesome, and when you get sent down to the Rochester, it sucks. And he goes, that's not the case. Like, now Devin added the cliche of I'm playing hockey and that's all that matters, like wherever I'm playing hockey. But there is something to winning, and there is something to structure. Devin talks about last year, up and down, that he's got in a rhythm here. And all of those things are crucial for your development. So to sit around and do this with this guy and that with this guy, like, there needs to be structures in place. There needs to be a plan in place. There needs to be priorities put on development and consistency for some of these young guys who are coming from overseas and just learning to live on their own at such a young age. And then to have them get their teeth kicked in Buffalo, to me, is not the formula for success.
Dan, what are you working on here as we get we're 1 week away from the NFL draft? What's happening at Buffalo Plus that we can check out this week?
So Mike did a mock draft, and Jenna and I got to shred it to pieces. That's on the latest episode of the Buffalo Plus podcast. We got that up right now. Mike has like 19 trades. We had to write it in the description on the YouTube video because there were so many moves. He was wheeling and dealing, but we did both agree. He had the Bills trading back and then up for Trey Amos. I had them staying put. And then we both had them in the second round taking Darius Alexander out of Toledo. So I had them moving up for that pick, but we both agreed on the first two picks. After that, Mike goes and does all these cool picks, and it's a good listen. We have that coming up next week. Mike and Jenna will be up there for Tuesday. We then will have our live show next Wednesday, 7 o'clock, kind of previewing the NFL draft. We'll take your questions. And then on Thursday, I'll be up in Buffalo, but we will also be having a live show leading up to the Bills pick, and then we'll have instant reaction on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel after the pick. So before the draft, after the draft, live shows a lot coming up next week.
Thank goodness for the Colorado Rockies, because without them, the Atlanta Braves would have the worst record in the National League. Dan, thank you so much
Didn't have
for
to do
joining
that,
us. I
Gene.
did.
Did not.
No, you just, like, this is a time where we can just kind of enjoy and just see your rival right at the bottom, and their fans are just
Shaking my head right now, Dan. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing on behalf of my less than gracious co-host. What are you doing? Stop it, Dan.
No, he would agree with me. The
It's a
Braves
lo-
are bad.
They're bad right now. It's a long season. Dan, thank you for joining us despite Gene's antics.
You're welcome, Danger.
I think you're dead to him. That was so unnecessary, so uncalled for. He's gracious with his time. He joins us every week, and you gotta drop an elbow on him as he's walking out the door. It's a cheap shot, man.
No,
and I know
all he had to say was, "You're right. They are bad." And
he knows they're bad. He didn't need you rubbing his nose in
it's
it.
like if somebody came up to you, be like, "Hey, the Sabres are bad." Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, tell me
this
something I don't
this
know.
sandwich tastes like S. Yeah, okay. So you need to tell him that the sandwich tastes like S, even though he knows that the sandwich tastes like S.
Atlanta is 5-13.
Yes,
5-13 with
yes.
that talent.
They're not good right now.
No.
Long season. You didn't need to do that. God, I hope that doesn't come back to bite you in the ass. Actually, I kind of do. It'd be fun. It'd be fun if it somehow came back to bite. We'll mark this day, Dan DeLorean, April 17th, early in the Major League Baseball season. Yes, the Braves are struggling. And yes, Gene, as a misfit, had to rub Dan's nose in it.
I'm not a misfit. I just pointed out. What did I say that was inaccurate? I'm only delivering facts here. Fact, if it's not for the Colorado Rockies, the Atlanta Braves would have the worst record in the league.
That's exactly what people are coming to the sports bar for.
Oh, who cares?
To talk about the Rockies. Gino! Unbelievable. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate Dan Fates stopping by every Thursday afternoon to share his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills. We'll get to some more takes on the way next. Oh, you know what today is? Today is Thursday. Did you see this?
Oh, when he's dropping his top 500.
The
yeah.
Thor 500. Thor Nystrom, who joins us regularly here in the sports bar to talk about prospects. Some great comps. The Thor 500 is a list of his top 500 prospects and the comp, the pro comp that he has to each prospect. I'll give you one. Travis Hunter. Do you know what his comp is for Travis Hunter?
I could only, is he comping him? Don't tell me prime.
No.
I'm trying to think of who would play both sides of the ball. Who's the comp?
Shohei Ohtani.
Oh. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to some of these comps as well, Gino, and I know you got more to share as well.
Yeah, look, this was always not only the week, the exact day we would have the NFL schedule drop. And the NFL realized, wait a second. Let's own the news cycle in May. Let's push this back and have everybody speculate. So I'm breaking the seal, and I'm going to tell you who I think the Buffalo Bills should open with.
All right, we'll get to that, and we have time for your calls as well at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Last game for the Buffalo Sabres tonight. The team hosting Philadelphia. Our coverage here on The Fan will begin at 7 o'clock. The Hammers get the job done on Wednesday against Cleveland. Head coach Mike Leone on the W.
Guys have done it all year, regardless of who's in the lineup. I think it's belief in the team, the way we play. Guys could hear it on the bench after we started winning shifts, and it was Amerks hockey. I thought we played relentless. I thought we did a great job pressuring the puck, and really the commitment.
Final home game of the season for the Amerks. That's tomorrow night against the Marlies. Rochester Red Wings, game one of a doubleheader. Worcester, the opponent. The Woo Sox leading 1-0. They're in the top of the third. On the Major League scoreboard, we got the Athletics leading the White Sox 5-0 in the seventh. Reds trailing the Mariners 11-7. The lone final today has the Diamondbacks over the Marlins 6-4. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
We're 1 week out from the NFL draft.
Buffalo Bills, the position of the first drafted player. D-line edge -115. Cornerback +280. Safety at +600.
The Buffalo Bills select
Mike Danger.
Kenneth Grant is my draft crush this year. Go get him. If he's not there at 30, do what you have to do to get Kenneth Grant.
Gene Battaglia.
3 second-rounders. That's what I want.
Legendary Lee Corso retiring from ESPN's College Game Day after their season opener on August 30th.
Stanley Cup playoffs.
Welcome to the National.
Now with all the matchups set.
So the Amerks celebrate this one. Final score, Amerks 4, Cleveland 1.
The NBA play-in tournament has been a success.
As for last night's winners, the Heat now play in Atlanta. The Mavs go to Memphis for games tomorrow night that decide the 8th seed in each conference.
Bang!
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Ryan Talbot's going to tell us all about the prospects making their pre-draft visits to Buffalo. Coming up here in about 20 minutes or so, we welcome you back in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us, listening along in the free-to-download Odyssey app, watching along on our YouTube channel. We stream live every afternoon from 3 until 6 on our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester, on YouTube and on Twitch. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
Yeah, blue skies today. Maybe we get weather like this for the draft next Thursday night. Invite you out to Three Heads Brewing. Maybe, just maybe, we get Aaron Rodgers signing with a team before Thursday, and Danger has to pay me a box of wine.
If you're just joining us after being banned from betting with me by his wife, the executive producer, Gene caved. We've got a new boxed wine bet solely on Aaron Rodgers playing or retiring in 2025. I believe, based on what we heard today from Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Show, that not only is he done, but if you're an NFL GM, as Dan Fates pointed out astutely last hour, would you want that guy? Would you want a guy that's saying, yeah, I can take it or leave it right now? I mean, I don't really need to play football, but if you wanted to give me $10 million, sure, I'll show up.
He did kind of sound like a guy that, well, I'm in a relationship now. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Like,
join the club.
Yeah.
Join the club,
Great.
pal. Yeah, marriage, continuous negotiation. Sign up here for the electric chair. So we'll see what happens, but we now have some skin in the game. The boxed wine bet is back. Will Aaron Rodgers retire, or will he sign with an NFL team? And you're saying by week 1.
Week 1 is what we have to wait, because Fates agreed with us on that you could have a retirement announcement just like Tom Brady did, and then the urge comes and some team comes calling, and when you get to the end of the season. So you're going to have to wait. Now, me, on the other hand, he signs with Pittsburgh tomorrow. I am saying pay up.
Yeah.
Pay me.
Fair. You won't. I won't welsh on a bet.
We never welsh. One time I forgot. I think I forgot on the Wentz bet. And you just brought it up one day. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. That's the difference. That's not Welsh.
Bet Welsher.
No, not at all.
The Thor 500 is out. Today being Thor's Day. Thor Nystrom from fantasylife.com. It's a arduous task. He takes his top 500 prospects, lists them out, 1 to 500, and gives a comp to each player.
My goodness.
The guy's a psycho. I love him. Would you like to hear some comps of names that we've talked about on this show, names that we would imagine the Bills would have some interest in as far as who they are, where he has them ranked, and who he has them comped to?
This is difficult because he's doing the best case scenario for all these, right? Like, let's just start off with Kenneth Grant. Do you have Kenneth Grant available?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's got Kenneth Grant listed as his 4th defensive lineman, with his comp being Chester McLaughlin.
Oh, okay.
What a
That
pull.
guy, oh my gosh. That guy was just a bull. If you get Chester McLaughlin in the first round, okay, I'd be up for that.
Derek Harmon out of Oregon, he has as his 3rd defensive lineman. And this is a comp that'll hit close to home. He comps Derek Harmon to Marcel Darius.
Oh.
Defensive lineman number 3. So he actually has Harmon ranked above Kenneth Grant.
That was from earlier in the week. We were talking to Matt Perino. Like that, Harmon, you'd be okay with too, but he also gives you a little pass rushing ability too. So I think we'd be okay with that.
Now, the guy that I mentioned to Dan Fates when we spoke to him last hour, that if the Bills find themselves looking for a wide receiver early in the draft, what about Matthew Golden, who he has listed as wide receiver 2 in this draft from Texas? His comp for Matthew Golden, Garrett Wilson. Sign me up.
Okay, that Garrett Wilson to me is the one player in this league that I feel like it's not his fault. I mean, get him the ball. Like, get him an offense. He should be putting up better numbers.
Agreed. Jahdae Barron out of Texas, the corner out of Texas. I don't know that he's there when the Bills are picking at 30. Thor has him as his cornerback 3, with his comp being Devin Witherspoon. Good player. Maxwell Hairston, who we spent a little time talking about last hour, the corner out of Kentucky. He has listed right behind Barron as CB4, with the comp of Jarius Sneed.
Ooh.
Now, Fate's conversation with Fate's last hour, which, by the way, if you missed it, wherever you get your podcast, you can find it. Just search out the Sports Bar.
Trey Amos he likes.
Well, Hairston was the one that can't tackle. That was the knock. Like, he's good, but he's not great at tackling. So that's a giant red flag if you're going to be on this Bills defense. Let's go down the list of corners here, because at CB5, Siobhan Ravel out of East Carolina. We've talked about him. We've talked about him recovering from an ACL, but how he's viewed as, even with that recovery, potential first-round guy, a first-round talent. Thor comps Ravel Jr. to Antonio Cromartie.
Well, hopefully we're just talking about the football field and not all the children and everything.
Yeah.
That's like one of the moments of all time, right, from Hard Knocks, like where, okay, tell us about your children. He couldn't name them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not good.
And then the guy that Fates brought up, Trey Amos, he's got listed as his 6th cornerback in the Thor 500, with the comp being A.J. Terrell.
Amos and a lot of these comps, that feels a little too rich for me at 30. If you get the defensive lineman, could that be a player that you could get in the 2nd round?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would not want. I would not want Amos at 30. I would want him later.
Right. So can we say, if we had to do, because what I'm saying is the Bills trade down, but if they somehow got Kenneth Grant and didn't have to give up too much capital, or dare I say actually set at 30, that would be kind of like the dream scenario, right? You're getting Kenneth Grant, and then you're getting a corner in Amos who can certainly compete, and you would expect to win that job at some point.
I like the idea of Golden, but I don't think Golden will be there at 30. Like, if Golden somehow fell to the Bills at 30, would that be like a hard thing for them to pass on?
What they should do, Danger, is just be true to their board. And in this league, like, if there's a receiver like that for the Rams who just moved on from Cooper Kupp, you really think that Golden's going to fall to 30?
I don't know. That's what makes all of this so much fun and so interesting. Well, the Thor 500 different comps, and I mentioned it before the break. He's got Travis Hunter, his number 1 prospect on the board, with the comp of Shohei Ohtani. We've never seen anything like this guy.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, can they get Shohei on the mound? It's been over a year. You know, they just don't need him right now, Danger. They paid for all these others. They're pacing themselves.
Yeah.
I've got to take, but before I get to that, I want to ask you a question I asked Fates. because Brandon Beane traditionally will go right down the middle. Whether that's intentional or not, that's the way it normally works out. Equal balance between offense and defense, not a bad way to build a team. If Beane decided, because this is an area need and you're going to need more depth on the defensive side, but you have Josh Allen, MVP, and you want to always make sure he's got new toys, would you be okay with the majority of picks? I'm not talking like, okay, you stay with 10 picks, it's 6 are on defense, 4. I'm saying like 7 or 8, that the defense would be dominant when it comes to the number of selections.
Assuming that there's 10 picks overall, you're saying, would I be okay with them going 8 defensive picks and only 2 offensive picks?
Correct.
God, it would be so out of character, wouldn't it? I do think it'll be more 50-50.
Like, what would be the pick? Okay, quarterback would be, but like, what would be the pick? Offensive line?
I think
you can't draft running back, and here's why. Because, all right, you can't carry 4 running backs on the roster. As much as I would like to say, let's go, hey, 5th round, we like this running back, let's draft James Cook's replacement. Okay, hard to keep that guy on the roster. You can't carry 4 running backs.
Well, you have Frank Gore just sitting there waiting on the Bills' practice squad if you want to use him. I think that you can't have enough depth on either line. So I would say that even though their offensive line has been consistent and you've got some pieces there, some guys that you like, some guys that haven't yet seen, like, we forgot about Cedric Van Franger from last year.
Yeah.
Like, he's still on this roster.
Do you remember we thought, wow, dude, Connor McGovern, is he really? No, he really was a center for this team. Yeah.
Ryan Vandermark is still on this roster, but I think there's probably an offensive lineman in there somewhere out of those 10. I do think there's a running back, probably late.
See, I don't, because how are you going to carry 4 running backs? That's a wasted pick.
It's somebody that's better than Frank Gore Jr.
Then that somebody could end up on a 53 elsewhere.
Possible.
Yeah. Our number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Brad in Rochester. What's up, Brad?
Hey. This draft, I think Beane, even though he has 10 picks, he's only going to have actually use 7. 2 defensive tackles, 2 corners, a safety, a wide receiver, and a random linebacker. That's going to be about it. I don't see anything else except for wide receiver on the offensive side. We're already got 4 running backs who know the system on the roster. And they've been seeing a lot of speed guys who are like late day 2, early day 3 guys. And you know Beane is going to trade.
Tight end. Is that a sneaky need, knowing that, all right, not for this year, but Dawson
We already
Knox?
got 3 of them right now. We've got Davidson, Kincaid, and Knox.
They like Davidson.
They do.
You've got your guys. I mean, I only say running back because I think there might be an opportunity to get somebody better than Frank Gore Jr. and because of how much depth there is of this year's running back class. I don't think the Bills want to sit on their hands during that. I like what Brad is saying about wide receiver. I think they do get a wide receiver at some point. And linebacker, I'm not going to forget about that either. You've got Dolak out of Buffalo that I would be shocked if they didn't, express interest. I want to see where Sean Dolak ends up. And who's the other one? Oh, yeah. Chris Paul Jr. Pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one, like a linebacker that they've brought in, and would it shock me if they showed an interest late in the late rounds? No, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Boy, that'd be kind of cool. Like, oh my gosh, there's Chris Paul in the Bills game. Real quick take here, because for the NFL schedule, it used to come out this week. Kind of liked it, right? Heading into the draft, and then, all right, we have enough draft to talk about. The NFL is going to dictate what they want you to talk about, so let's wait on that, all right? So it's okay, though, for us to speculate, and for the Buffalo Bills, last year I thought they got a layup in Arizona. 2 years ago at the Jets, that didn't work out, right? Who would I like to see the Bills open with at home? And yes, I'm saying home, not on the road. Time doesn't matter. You can put it at 1 o'clock. You put this at Sunday Night Football. It's September. How about Cincinnati, Danger? You got to play these guys at some point. But, Gene, wouldn't you want to get an automatic win against the Jets or wherever? No. Like, when you play a team matters so much in this league, and Cincinnati always starts out slow. They lost last year, week 1, to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Tell me how the Trey Hendrickson drama is going to go. I would much rather face a Bengals team right out of the gate than have them come together in week 17.
I appreciate that. Now, remind me, is it the AFC North that they're matching up against this year?
Yes, that's correct.
And is Baltimore? Baltimore is on the schedule. So
Baltimore is on the schedule. So
if you're going to pluck a team from the AFC North for week 1, it's Baltimore.
So just to kind of refresh, and maybe you could say, hey, you want to start off on the road. And let's say Bills at Carolina. They wouldn't do that. I would highly. But the road games, Pittsburgh, speculation that could be a dumbling game. We'll see. Atlanta, Carolina, Cleveland, Houston. Your home games, besides the division, Baltimore, Cincinnati. You get New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and then the 2 Super Bowl teams, Kansas City and Philadelphia. It's a tough schedule. And maybe by the time December comes around, it doesn't look as tough.
Would you take a rematch of the AFC Championship week 1?
Wow, that would make everybody's heads explode, wouldn't it? Putting that right at
final season at Highmark Stadium. We're sending it off by starting here week 1 against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City boring Chiefs. When last we saw them getting annihilated by the Philadelphia Eagles.
It can't be Philadelphia. Or would you just rather bring in New Orleans? Let's give the Bills a win here right out of the gate.
The nice soft start to the schedule that what feels like a 4th preseason game isn't a bad thing. I don't hate that. But if just for the sake of you saying Cincinnati, it wouldn't be Cincinnati. It would be Baltimore if they were going to pluck a team from the AFC North for week 1. I think they would go.
Right back to the
playoff
game,
matchup.
Yeah.
They'd go to the playoff matchup. Because when you bring in Cincinnati, you're conjuring up DeMar Hamlin and
they love that.
I know they love that, but it also is like everything all the negative emotion that was with that too. And there was like, what are they doing? They're canceling a game. How do you remember? The NFL remembers what a headache that was. It was a headache. We don't talk about that enough because we were very enamored with what was happening with Hamlin's recovery.
So you think that
the NFL doesn't want anything like that to ever happen again?
See, you could certainly Kansas City, Philadelphia, those could be primetime games. Baltimore. They put Tampa Bay 2 years ago in primetime for crying out loud, and the Bengals. Not all 4 of those, 5 of those are going to be in primetime.
Right.
Do you put the Bengals then 1 o'clock, 4:25?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, I just thought about that. Week 1, Sunday night, rematch, AFC Championship, but now in Buffalo. That'd be fun.
Wow.
Sign me up. Let's go. Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. You have to beat the defending AFC champions. And do it you've done it before in the regular season. You've done it before in Buffalo. Do it. Just get off to that start. Demoralize them week 1. Oh.
You think they can do that? They had Kansas City open last year against Baltimore.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think that would be a lot of fun. And if you're asking me right now to make a pick for what the Bills do week 1, it's Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. It's Sunday night. We got a month to go before we get the schedule.
I'm going to say 4:25 late window Bengals.
Okay. Let's get Ryan Talbot on. We'll ask Talbot. We'll get his take. Ryan Talbot, who's been unbelievable, as he is every offseason, covering these pre-draft visits and some of these prospects that have spent time and worked out for the Buffalo Bills, even on Zoom. Ryan Talbot joins us next. Check out his work at Syracuse.com. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills NFL draft next on The Fan.
Sports Update.
1 week from tonight, it's the NFL Draft. The Buffalo Bills selecting at 30 right now. Chris Trapasso today on One Bills Live knows it's about value.
For the Bills, last year, 10 selections. This year, they're going in with 10 selections. That is the best way to do exactly what you just said. Keep the team as a playoff or Super Bowl contender throughout a decade. And that's really hard to do in the NFL.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout Podcast. Ryan joining us next here in the Sports Bar. The Amherst, final 2 games of the season coming up. It's the home and home against Toronto. Friday night being the home game, the Amherst coming off a win last night over Cleveland. Rochester Red Wings game 1 of a doubleheader. So far, not so good. Worcester is up 8-0 as they head to the bottom of the third. Sabres tonight taking on Philadelphia. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Ryan Talbot has been an absolute workhorse at Syracuse.com, tracking all of the Buffalo Bills pre-draft visits. We'll get into it with Ryan, who joins us now on the Fan. But first, Ryan, break a couple ties for us. We got 2 things here that we want you to weigh in on that we've been discussing throughout the course of the afternoon. Number one, after hearing Aaron Rodgers speak on McAfee today, do you think it's more likely that Aaron Rodgers retires or more likely that he's playing for an NFL team in 2025? And 2, what's your pick for week 1 for the Buffalo Bills? Gino thinks they're hosting Cincinnati. I think it's a Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship rematch in primetime on Sunday night.
Ooh, well, to answer the first question, I think Rodgers will end up playing. I'm not sure it's going to be, though, for Pittsburgh or New Orleans, the 2 teams that he's kind of been linked to as of late. I could see him sitting out half the season waiting maybe for a contender to have a QB injury and then jumping on and trying to kind of play with that team when it comes to competing for, playoffs and a title. I think he's starting to see that he has worn out his welcome in this league. There hasn't been a ton of interest in him for good reason. You saw how he handled his exit with the Jets today, talking about how it went poorly in his opinion with Aaron Glenn in their first meeting. And for the second question, I have no idea when it comes to the schedule release, just because I could see Kansas City, for instance, CBS could put that on at any time in season, and they're going to get monster ratings for that. If I were to guess, it could be a game like the Bengals or something along those lines for sure. I think they're going to hold off on the Chiefs, though. That's just a middle of the season ratings get for CBS or whoever ends up owning the rights to that game.
Yeah, Ryan just kind of brought it up because always this was, if not the week, the day we would get the NFL schedule, and they've pushed that back to May, knowing that, hey, there's so much meat on the bone when it comes to talking about the NFL draft. And as Danger mentioned, you're doing a fantastic job every year, particularly around this time when you're tracking everybody who's coming in to visit for the Buffalo Bills, or maybe that's just as simple as a Zoom meeting. But I'll just ask the question is overall here, how much of an indicator is this historically with Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills that guys that they talk to, they end up drafting at some point?
No, yeah, it's been huge. And, a lot of people downplay the pre-draft visits because after the first few rounds, the Bills don't have a great history of necessarily drafting people off their board. But if you look early on with Brandon Beane, you have Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, Ed Oliver. Then you have the 2 COVID years. There's Kaiir Elam. All those guys were top 30 visits with the Bills. And they didn't have a first-round pick last year after trading down, but Keon Coleman was in on a pre-draft visit last year. You can go into round 2 and round 3, Osiris Torrance, and there's a few others. Dawson Knox, round 3. That list goes on and on. So it certainly matters in the first few rounds when it comes to the pre-draft visits. And then you look at the private workouts, the Zooms. We can indicate a lot about what the Bills are looking for specifically in this year's draft based on these visits.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, Syracuse.com, tracking pre-draft visits for the Buffalo Bills. And Ryan, earlier in this week, I planted my flag, my Bills draft crush. I want them whatever it takes. I don't want them to leave the draft without getting Kenneth Grant at defensive tackle. And I shared this with your colleague, Matt Perino, earlier in the week. He said you've got another defensive tackle in mind that might offer a little bit more to the Buffalo Bills. Explain your case here.
Ooh, I don't know who's talking about Derek Harmon, because that's why I did my last mock draft. I actually think the Bills probably go corner in round one, but Derek Harmon fits more of the mold of what the Bills have done from that one tech position. Has a lot more juice in terms of the pass rush. He's great against the run, strong physical hands at the point of attack. The problem is, I think Harmon and Kenneth Grant are likely going to be gone by pick 30. I would love to be wrong and one of them to slip down into that range, because then I think it's an easy pick for the Bills in round one with one of those D tackles. I just don't know if either of them falls into Buffalo's laps. And if you look at some of the pre-draft visits, the Zooms, everything else, they are looking at a lot of D tackles that are going to be on day 2 of the draft, early day 3. And then obviously there's a lot of corners that they're looking at in round 1 and round 2.
So corner, could you find corners in round 2? Who would be, like, if the Bills are going to stay at 30 or maybe trade up a few spots there? And the last time they traded up for a corner with Kyrie Elam didn't work out so well. Ryan, tell us about who you think could be some names here, some targets. Who do you like at the corner position?
Yeah, I love Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. He is perfect for what Buffalo does defensively. They're going to be a mix of zone and man. We saw them up their man defense a little bit late in the season playoff run, but Amos, in terms of the zone defense, he is outstanding in that regard. He just really fits the Bills' defense extremely well. So if they were to pick at 30, that's a guy that I love for the Bills. And then there's a lot of other players that, I think they're going to fall into round 2 because of injuries. Revel Jr. out of East Carolina, he's coming off of an ACL injury, was getting first-round hype going into his final season there. He had 2 interceptions in 3 games. He was looking the part for East Carolina. I'm a Notre Dame fan, but Benjamin Morrison is as legitimate as can be at cornerback. He has a hip injury, though, that he missed most of the season with. If the Bills end up landing him, that would be an outstanding selection. And then, you look at players like Maxwell Hairston. He ran a 4.28 40, probably more of a first-round pick there. He does have some off-the-field concerns that I'm sure the Bills have done their due diligence on. And then Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State would be another really good player on day 2 of the draft in round 2 with one of those second-round picks.
All right, so what about Hairston? The knock, I believe, is that he's not as sharp a tackler as the Bills might like, although that speed, man, that is an enticing number at 4.28 40.
Yeah, tackling on the field is his biggest issue, and we know that Sean McDermott loves corners that can tackle well. What's interesting is I looked at the 40 times today of the cornerbacks from the Combine, and the Bills have at least had conversations with 5 of the 10. So it does seem like speed is part of the equation that they're looking for when it comes to the cornerback position as well. And a lot of the guys, too, are just tremendous in terms of the zone and man. They have a little bit of a balance to their game. But speed seems to be a big part of what Buffalo is looking at, just at cornerback and at wide receiver so far.
Yeah, Ryan, tracking all these players, right, in these positions, as you mentioned, okay, like wide receiver being one where we've seen some, but is this the year? Because I think normally you'll have Brandon Beane going 50-50 down the middle. Do we get more defensive players selected as opposed to offense this year?
I would be shocked if it wasn't defensive heavy in this draft class based on the due diligence that they've done, the players that they've looked at. Wide receiver is one area or one position that they have looked at a lot of players, but running back, it's been a handful of guys and more so day 3 players, if anything. Jaden Blue out of Texas, for instance, they met with him at the Combine. They had a pre-draft visit with him. So running back obviously hasn't been a priority. They have a strong 1 through 3. Even with everything going on with James Cook, they really haven't talked to many tight ends. O-linemen, it's been, day 3 UDFA type of players that I've reported on. And obviously not looking at a quarterback. So it really limits what I think they're going to do in terms of offense. They could double dip at wide receiver. They could take a skill player late for sure. But for the most part, I think you're looking at a draft class where they're probably going to add maybe 3 defensive linemen. I could see them double dipping at defensive tackle, a 3-tech and a 1-tech, adding an edge rusher. They've looked at a few linebackers that I really like. Pooh Paul out of Ole Miss, real name Chris Paul Jr., but it kind of goes by Pooh as in Winnie the Pooh. Love his game a lot. He's been going anywhere in mock drafts from late on day 2, early day 3. Sean Dolak out of UB, I think, is on their radar firmly. So I think a linebacker's in play. And then you're talking about maybe 2 cornerbacks as well. So I know the Bills probably won't end up making all 10 of their picks, but I expect this to be a very heavy defensive draft.
What about the case for wide receiver early in this draft? If you have a Matthew Golden in your range, we know that they visited with Isaiah Bond, and there's some character concerns there, the two Texas wide receivers. And we know that they've taken visits with guys that project to be more like day 2 guys, day 3 guys, and beyond. What are your thoughts on how invested in wide receiver the Bills will be this year in the draft?
Yeah, I expect them to fully add one guy with blazing speed, and that could be a day 3 pick. But if the right guy falls early in this draft, again, wouldn't shock me whatsoever. Matthew Golden's a great name to project there. Ran one of the fastest times, the fastest time among the wide receivers at the Combine. Would be a great weapon or asset for this team. Luther Burden hasn't been getting a lot of love or praise, it feels like, in this draft process. I know that. He might be best in the slot, but he can play on the outside, absolutely. He's drawn comparisons to Garrett Wilson of the Jets. I love his game quite a bit. So those would be 2 guys in round 1 if the Bills were at pick 30 and they were still hovering there in the early 20s. I wouldn't hate if they traded up to get either one of them. But then on day 2, Jalen Royals is maybe my favorite wide receiver in this draft class, does everything extremely well, ran a 4.4 40. So he meets the speed criteria as well. But, man, you look at some of these guys that they are looking at. There's some intriguing players like Tennessee wide receiver Dante Thornton. He ran a 4.35, and he's 6 feet 5 inches tall. Not the most nuanced route runner, very raw, but you can't teach speed at that size. Has drawn some DK Metcalf comparisons. And he's supposed to be a day 3 pick. So if you could get him with one of your round 5 picks or one of your round 6 picks, those are the guys that I would throw a dart on the dartboard for any day of the week. Some of the other guys that I really like in the wide receiver room that they've kind of looked at, I don't know if there's any of them that I love as much as that. Bond has too many character concerns, in my opinion. But Jalen Lane's another one that I really like a lot, and they've had a Zoom meeting with him as well.
Ryan Talbot, you can check out his tracker, all these pre-draft visits, Zooms, the private workouts, and more, NewYorkUpstate.com being the website. Ryan, I'd be curious to get your opinion here because you're just not covering the Bills, you're covering the entire league. And to me, if you have a chance to interview and sit down, wouldn't you want more information? It was this week I kind of learned, wait a second, this new young GM of the Jaguars thinks that creates an implicit bias. I don't know if that's right or he just doesn't want to do it, but it turns out that the Rams don't use their pre-draft visits. And I would just ask you the question, why not? Why wouldn't you want to use this opportunity to learn some more?
Yeah, I think it's foolish. And if you look at the Rams last draft, they actually had some really nice hits. They had a nice draft class. But the one thing I'll say about the Rams is, for the most part, they haven't had a lot of draft picks in recent years. So maybe that was part of their MO of not bringing people in. But if you're the new GM in Jacksonville, that is not one trend that I would bring with me. I think it's really important to bring players in because when you look at this list of players that Buffalo brought in, some of them were character concerns. So this is a chance for the Bills to sit down, get to know these players a little bit better. The injuries that I mentioned for some of these cornerbacks is a chance for the Bills medical staff to kind of look and get an idea of how well they are healing and rehabbing, how close they are. Will they be ready to go week 1 this season? Will they be ready to go for training camp? So there's a ton of value with these pre-draft picks. I get it. It's very convenient that you can, pick up a phone, you can Zoom people multiple times throughout the process, and you can talk with them a lot there too. But I think getting them inside your facility is also very important.
Ryan, who do you think on Brandon Beane's cheat sheet he has as a first-round talent at the safety position?
Oof. I think there's a few guys that he probably has. South Carolina kid. I could see Xavier Watts of Notre Dame being someone that's hovering close to that. Malachi Starks possibly as well out of Georgia. Those would be the 3 that I would pinpoint. I don't know if you would pull the trigger on a safety. I still think it's a need. You have Taylor Rapp entering the final year of his contract. Damar Hamlin being more of a depth player. You still don't know what you have in Cole Bishop. So if you can get a blue chip player, I think they should at least consider it. And those are 3 players right there that I would absolutely love to see in Buffalo. I just think that when it comes to best player available, if all things are equal, I think he's going to have some comparable grades in some of these D tackles and cornerbacks. And based on the immediate need at those 2 positions, I think if all things are considered close, he's going to lean with one of those positions.
Ryan, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, and I asked this question to Matt earlier in the week because sometimes when it comes to the draft, we almost overlook like who you took last year and who's on the pipeline that maybe didn't get a lot of minutes or many reps here. And I would point to a couple of years ago when, hey, there's this competition for middle linebacker, and it's Balin Spector, it's Dotson. No, it's Terrell Bernard. It's kind of silly to think that now, knowing that he's a cornerstone of this defense. My question is about Dwayne Carter, the third-round pick here. I know he's not the guy you want to pair to right next to Ed Oliver, but where's the ceiling with him? Because we didn't get the full experience last year when he hurt his wrist.
Yeah, I think he can be really good as part of a rotation behind Ed Oliver. The problem is when he came back from the wrist injury, one, he was either inactive, or two, he was extremely ineffective when he was on the field. So his rookie season, if you really look at the tail end of it, it left a lot to be desired. And that's why I think the Bills brought in Larry Ogunjobi without knowing about his suspension. I think it's why they've also looked at some potential three-tech defensive tackles in this draft class. They don't want to just hand him a job, whether it's the top depth player off the bench behind Ed Oliver. They wanted Ogunjobi to come in and push him and make him earn that role. But after his rookie season, I think everything's on the table, especially with the Bills entering this draft at least with 10 picks. They're going to look to upgrade their entire defensive line. It's been their Achilles heel. I know that Brandon Beane's thrown a lot at it over the years. It's still the one area, though, where there's it's what's holding them back, it feels like, from getting to the big game.
We call it the season of line, Ryan. It's pre-draft season, and I'm curious. We know that there's a connection that dates back to Carolina, and he took a visit with the Bills yesterday. James Bradbury, corner. What do you think? Is that somebody that the Bills signed to just add to the 90? It's not going to stop them from drafting a corner, will it?
No, not at all. And at this point in his career, too, they might be looking at him as more of a safety or a player that can play both positions off the bench. You know, he was released in March by Philadelphia with a post-June 1st designation. So I don't know if the Bills are trying to play comp bingo this year, but that wouldn't count against them. It's a veteran that you can bring in if they end up signing him. I think probably get him close to the vet minimum, if not at the vet minimum at this point in his career. Let him compete at training camp, see if he can win a job as a depth type of player. But cornerback is very thin right now, so they do want to play him at corner and give him a chance there. They definitely need some bodies there, at least pre-draft. That could obviously change after with the draft class and the UDFAs that they sign post-draft. But right now, that is a big need.
Assuming it wasn't AI generated, and I guess we always have to kind of throw that disclaimer or think about that. I'm going to assume that was really James Cook we saw on video this week ripping up logos of the Chiefs and the Jets. Are we to kind of assume that, okay, whatever happens this year, that James Cook is pointing to maybe perhaps him being okay, being a Buffalo Bill here in 2025?
Yeah, I think he is. I think, ideally he would have loved to have gotten that $15 million offer from the Bills and have that security. But I think he also knows that if he goes out and repeats the type of season he had last year, there's going to be a team that will offer him that kind of money on the free agent market. The Bills aren't known to franchise tag players. I don't think that would be something they would do with Cook, even if he had a monster year. So I think he's going to go into this season, play out his contract. The Bills could negotiate in season. It's not something they do a lot, but there are a few instances where they've extended players in season. So I think everything's on the table. The big thing is there probably needs to be some kind of compromise while you're not going to get $15 million per year, but we can offer you a little bit more in guaranteed money. We can front load it, make it look like it's close to that $15 million on average. But when you finally see the breakdown of it, the Bills can maybe get out of it after 2 years, 3 years tops, whatever it is. I don't think you're going to see any kind of holdout, though. One, just because he's not making a ton of money in this final season. It's about $5 million with fines and everything else. You could run through that very, very quickly with the way the league runs things now.
Ryan, we're a week away from Christmas in the NFL, and we know that you and Matt are working hard leading up to Thursday night. So what do we got? What do we expect here out of the Shout podcast? Ooh. We know there's lots of live events.
Yeah, you got the Wingnuts event Saturday night here, Ryan.
Yes, Wingnuts Saturday night at the Millersport location. Matt's going to unveil his final mock draft. He He went all in on this final mock draft, so it'll be fun to kind of break down, discuss. And then we're going to be live at Turning Stone Casino on night one of the draft. We're going to go live around 9 p.m. on all the streaming sites. And then we'll also come back again after the Bills make their pick, which traditionally has been around 11:30, 11:40 at night with a second episode of Shout.
I don't know if he brought this up to you. He brought this up to us on Tuesday. He says he's got something radical he's going to unveil here Saturday night when it comes to.
Oh, it's pretty wild. He's unveiled it to me. It's pretty wild.
Will we be on? All right, that's a tease there, Ryan.
It's a big tease. Huge. I'll tell you what. It would bring back memories of Ditka and Ricky Williams with the wedding dress on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I mean, he's going all in here.
Okay. All right. Maybe you can get Micah Parsons out of a deal like that. You trade everything for one guy. Ryan, appreciate the time as always, man. Great job covering the pre-draft visits. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Hey, thanks, guys.
There's Ryan Talbot, New York Upstate. Syracuse.com, where you can read Ryan's pre-draft visit tracker. All of the prospects that the Bills have spoken to, all of the prospects that have come in for workouts, private workouts, local workouts, combine visits. Ryan tracked them all.
Will we ever see anything like that again? And for folks, it's a long time ago, right? Mike Ditka, the head coach, but apparently he also had personnel power in New Orleans. This is post-Chicago. And he really wanted Ricky Williams and was calling. And as the story goes, Cincinnati was number one overall. Nope. And finally, Washington at 5 said, okay, give us your entire draft. And he did.
Yep. I'll always remember it. Because there was still a soft spot for Ditka, even though he was no longer with the Bears. And we knew he was crazy. We didn't know he was that crazy. Like, that was insane. And his reaction to all of it, like, he believed he won the draft. Like, I don't care whatever you want to do with the rest of those picks. I got Ricky Williams. I'm going golfing.
So then they do the magazine cover. Do you remember this? Where they put
Bride.
they put him in a bride, and Ditka is the groom.
Yeah, I do remember that. I vividly remember it. I remember him puffing on a cigar, and they asked him, what are you going to do now? Going golfing. Like, he didn't care. I got my guy. That was the guy he wanted. I mean, old way of thinking, right? Old school mentality. All we need is a powerful running. You know, it's too bad we didn't have Chuck Muncie in that draft. But you had Ricky Williams. Worth trading your entire draft class for. He did. And Williams, at least in New Orleans, a shell of what you thought you were going to get out of that guy. But, man, when he was at Texas, I get it. I get what Ditka saw. He's like, hey, this guy's Walter Payton version 2.0. And if I can start with the foundation of a running game like that with this guy, we're going to be unstoppable.
Ricky Williams is going to be the guy who's always connected to cannabis.
Yeah, it's his identity.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's known for smoking weed. That's his identity, not his playing career. He had some good years. He had some decent years. He turned out to be a good running back. Just not in New Orleans.
That was like, as far as shocking retirements, like Andrew Luck was pretty shocking, but then you think about it afterward. Like Ricky Williams was just like a random July day. Like, oh, wait, he retired?
Mm-hmm.
Dave Wanstead was the head coach. I mean, gosh, like you're a Dolphin fan. Like we talk about Sabres misery. Do I feel sorry?
No.
No, I don't either.
No, not even a little bit.
No.
Happy hour is next. We have time for your calls. Lots there to unpack from Ryan Talbot covering the Bills pre-draft process.
We also we've got an important game for the Nighthawks. Last game, and they would get a home playoff game, if I understand this correctly. Connor Fields, who is an MVP candidate, will be joining us in the 5 o'clock hour as well.
I love that. All right, we'll get to your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326, and Gino and I have a brand new boxed wine bet. We'll explain.
Sometimes you think we plan things out, we don't.
The best stuff is spontaneous. This one, I gotcha.
No.
We'll get to it more next year. Happy hour on the way in the Sports Bar.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
One last time for the Buffalo Sabres in the 24-25 season. It's tonight. Sabres hosting Philadelphia. Our coverage will begin at 7. Meanwhile, the Amerks are heading to the postseason. They get a win last night over Cleveland. Head coach Mike Leone on the W.
Guys have done it all year, regardless of who's in the lineup. I think it's belief in the team, the way we play. Guys could hear it on the bench after we started winning shifts, and it was Amerks hockey. I thought we played relentless. I thought we did a great job pressuring the puck, and really the commitment.
Rochester home tomorrow night against Toronto. It's game one of a doubleheader for the Red Wings. Game one not going so well. Bottom of the fifth, Red Wings are being no-hit. 8-0 Worcester leading the Wings. Finals today from the majors. Mariners over the Reds 11-7. Pirates over the Nationals 1-0. Marlins over the Diamondbacks. Team Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
We're 1 week out from the NFL draft.
Buffalo Bills, the position of the first drafted player. D-line edge -115. Cornerback +280. Safety at +600.
The Buffalo Bills select
Mike Danger.
Kenneth Grant is my draft crush this year. Go get him. If he's not there at 30, do what you have to do to get Kenneth Grant.
Gene Battaglia.
3 second-rounders. That's what I want.
Legendary Lee Corso retiring from ESPN's College Game Day after their season opener on August 30th.
Stanley Cup playoffs.
Welcome to the National.
Now with all the matchups set.
So the Amerks celebrate this one. Final score, Amerks 4, Cleveland 1.
The NBA play-in tournament has been a success.
As for last night's winners, the Heat now play in Atlanta. The Mavs go to Memphis for games tomorrow night that decide the 8th seed in each conference.
Bang!
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome to Happy Hour in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We sound our best, static-free, in the free-to-download Odyssey app. We look our best on our YouTube channel where we stream live every afternoon from 3 until 6. Check out The Fan Rochester on YouTube. Like, subscribe while you are there, and you'll always know when we're going live here in the Sports Bar. Today, fun show. Ryan Talbot, New York Upstate, joined us last hour, talked about Bill's pre-draft visits, and Dan Fates, as he does every Thursday, swung by the Sports Bar in the 3 o'clock hour, and you can get those conversations in the free-to-download Odyssey app or wherever you pod. Just search out the Sports Bar.
Yeah, we've got Connor Fields. Rochester Nighthawks are home Saturday night against Toronto. He's coming up at the end of the hour, so if you would like to get in, well, now is the time. 866-4326, 866-4FAN. You can write to us as well in X, our handle, The Fan Rochester.
If you're just joining us in the Sports Bar this afternoon, I know many of you may be getting in your car if you had to work today. Some of you might have just routines out the window because it's spring break or because we've seen the sun today for the first time in 6 months. Earlier on the show, Gene went against the wishes of the executive producer.
And she once said, no more bets with Danger.
You're done.
You're done.
I roped you into another one,
this
pal.
Seems the only thing I feel bad about is the fact it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to celebrate anything with Aaron Rodgers.
The thing I feel bad about is a box of wine and not a bottle of bourbon. But it will still taste delicious because victory always tastes the sweetest. The box wine bet is, will Aaron Rodgers play football in the NFL Week 1, 2025, or will he retire?
So all of a sudden we get the alert, oh my gosh, Rodgers is going on the Pat McAfee show today. Everyone drop everything. Let's hear what Aaron Rodgers has to say exactly 1 week before the NFL draft. Okay, yeah.
Well, by the way, as long as he keeps doing that, and as long as we, like sheep, flock to McAfee to see what they're talking about, he will continue to be a guest because they'll have the numbers to back up why he's worth what they pay him to be on that show.
Right. McAfee is paying, what, $1 million for a year? Okay, well, sure, we're going to listen and pay attention. And look, there were some nuggets here. Aaron Rodgers saying he would play for $10 million. Okay, stop right there. Like, when do you ever hear a quarterback put their number out there? And then using deductive reasoning, Danger, can we kind of connect the dots and think, boy, the Steelers are not offering him $10 million right now.
The Steelers, who just paid Russell Wilson 1 year, $1 million, got to the playoffs with subpar quarterback play. Rodgers knows his worth. And I believe Rodgers, for as insufferable as he is, he has the right to wait. He has the right to make the decision when he wants to make the decision. He hasn't been a free agent once in his career, except for right now. And it's not his fault that the Steelers are in quarterback purgatory. It's not his fault that other teams don't necessarily know what their future is at the most important position in the game. And he sounded to me like a guy who's really begun contemplating what life after football looks like. This is Rodgers earlier.
From the jump, it's, I'm in a different phase of my life. I'm 41 years old. I'm in a serious relationship. I have off the field stuff going on that requires my attention. I have personal commitments I made, not knowing what my future was going to look like after last year, that are important to me. And I have, a couple of people in my inner circle who are really battling some difficult stuff. So I have a lot of things that are taking my attention, and have beginning in really January away from football. And that's been where I've been focusing most of my attention on. To make a commitment to a team is a big thing, whether you're a first-year player or a 20-year vet.
That doesn't sound like a guy that wants to play football next year.
No.
But, if he does, $10 million, you can have a future Hall of Famer on your roster week 1 for only $10 million. Doesn't seem like the Steelers were willing to offer him what he was looking for. And he acknowledged that retirement is still a possibility. My favorite part, though, really wasn't him being him. His description of how things went down with the Jets. He didn't hold back. He didn't pull any punches.
Well, what did he expect? Like, if you're expecting, this is a Jets dysfunctional story, it's not. I think it's Aaron Glenn saying, you know what? I'm going to look you straight in the eye and say, we're moving on. And because if you didn't do that, you could better believe Aaron Rodgers, I never got a call. Or I did get a call. No, I think this is the way to do it. You look the man in the eye and say, we're moving on. Yeah. What is the issue?
The issue is Rodgers flew cross-country for a 15-minute meeting where they basically told him, we're moving on from you.
I meet with the coach. We start talking. He runs out of the room. I'm like, that's kind of strange. I was like, then he comes back with the GM, and I'm like, all right. So we sit down in the office, and I think we're going to have this long conversation. I've flown across the country, and 20 seconds in, he goes, literally, I'm talking to the GM about something, and he leans to the edge of his seat and goes, so do you want to play football? I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, we're going a different direction at quarterback. And I was kind of shocked. Now, not shocked because I didn't think that was a possibility. Listen, of course, they want to move on. That's totally fine. But shocked because I just flew across country. You could have told me this on the phone. If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened. So I said, huh? And he goes, we just want to know how you want it released, the messaging. And I said, verbatim, I don't give a shit about the message. And I said, why? And then he said, I don't want to be up in front of the room saying something and have guys looking back at you. And I said, what does that even mean? Are you assuming that I would be in the back of the room during a team meeting undermining what you're saying? I said, you don't know me. And he said, you don't know me. And then I said, exactly, which is why I flew across the country to have a face-to-face meeting with you to talk about my experience with the Jets and to hear your vision for the team. 20 seconds in. What I thought was going to be a couple-hour meeting turned into like a 15-minute meeting, and I walked out of there.
Oh.
I actually kind of like that part of the conversation. And I don't blame the Jets for doing what they did or even doing it the way they did it. Hearing Rodgers feel disrespected by the Jets and basically torching the Jets for, calling New York a debacle and that they've got things that they've got to get fixed over there. Like Rodgers just setting a blowtorch to the place as he's on his way out.
You were not the solution. You were part of the problem. When you left your head coach hanging and answering questions while you're over in Egypt or whatever it is, you could have stepped out in front. He's just not a team guy. And what was the word you use? Insufferable? Yeah, he's insufferable. But here's the thing, Danger. He's also an addict for himself. Publicity. That happens. I believe you can get addicted to that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a narcissism.
Yeah, like when it comes to bad takes or whatever it is, it's just, hey, he understands that there's always going to be, to a certain degree, whether it's, big. But let me tell you something, Aaron. You know as well as I know, the second you stop playing, sure, you can have a podcast. Sure, you can go on somebody's show as a guest. You're less relevant. That's why this is an easy bet, Mike Danger. It may not happen next week. We may have to wait until week 1.
Okay.
But I am confident that narcissist will love himself. Please. Oh, I've got a lot of things going on. I'm in a serious relationship. Okay. Who doesn't have a lot of things going on? Who isn't in a relationship? And maybe someday you will be in a relationship. Give me a break, Rogers. Come on. You'll be on the field soon enough.
I don't think so, but we'll see. The box wine bet is on in the sports bar. I like a cab. They make one now with that they age in whiskey barrels, bourbon barrels.
You don't get to pick.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're going to go bargain basement again like you did the last time?
Yes.
Here's the cheap
I didn't hear any complaints from you.
$2 chuck from Trader Joe's. Enjoy this box of Boone's Farm. Thanks, Gino. You got to walk around with a vapor trail after I drink that box of wine.
Yeah. By definition, box wine is cheap, Danger, but I digress.
It's good, though. I don't mind it.
No.
I don't mind it.
No, and again, if you're new to the show, okay.
Give them a little history, Gino, because if you don't know what we're talking about with the box wine, you're like, what are these two? Why are they talking about box wine? Who the hell? What are they?
Aren't you a grown man? Like, what are you, 70?
I will say it's not my preference. It's not my first preference. I'll have a glass of wine every night with dinner, but I'm a bourbon guy. I'm a beer guy first and foremost. Wine. I enjoy a good bottle of wine with dinner. I've had some really, really amazing bottles of wine in my lifetime. Never once did I think to myself, box wine. Like, I remember my mom having a box of wine in the fridge growing up, and I'm like, yeah, no, not for me.
Okay, your mom was ahead of the curve there. Mm-hmm. She was ahead of her time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you the 3 bullet points. Ready? Number 1, value. Okay, you can't dispute the value there when you can buy one box, which could be anywhere roughly 3.5 bottles, right?
Gene is doing his best Glenn Ross. This is a salesman. He's wearing his suit, and he's pitching you all on why the box wine is the way to go.
But, Mike Danger, tell me about the actual taste. It's not bad.
But see, the thing is, like, I'm not a sommelier. I'm not going to know the difference between I might be able to tell the difference between a $2 Chuck bottle versus $100 bottle of wine. But when it comes to the box wine and I'm just drinking it with my dinner, a glass with my dinner, it doesn't need to be a $100 bottle of wine that I'm drinking from.
And then the last one, and this is the special category, and because I remember a lot of things, Danger, I remember there was one family get-together, and you mentioned this on the air, where you're in the pool kind of enjoying, and there's the empties laying around, and somebody casts judgment.
Absolutely.
So the last one is pitch count. When you go to a Wings game, you see the pitch count. When you're watching the game, you see the pitch count. No one knows the pitch count with a box of wine. Does that make me have a problem? No, not necessarily. It just absolves me from judgment from the outside, Danger.
I didn't mind the judgment. And the incident you're talking about happened over the 4th of July when me and the brothers-in-law were laying in the pool, and we are maybe like 7-8 beers deep each. And somebody in the family was trying to carry a conversation, and somebody piped up and said, "Why are you talking to them? They're hammered." We were, and they knew it. So, okay, so those are the benefits of the box of wine. But I'm not like somebody that's going to go for the second glass from the box of wine. So the pitch count for me is not really relevant. If I'm drinking something in quantity, it's not going to be multiple glasses of wine from the box. It's going to be multiple hazies, bourbon, cocktails of that sort of. So, but the value, hard to beat. And for me, taste, yeah, sure. With dinner, it's fine. So that's the backstory as to why the boxed wine bet happens in the sports bar.
Okay, and then for everybody else, 2 words. Guy code. Guy code, you know what I'm talking about. So anybody that might come into my wife's, the executive producer's orbit, where she hasn't. We're keeping this bet on the down low.
Yeah, because you don't want to get dinged by the executive producer. She gave you an order. No more betting with danger. No more betting with danger was what she said. And you weren't going to do it. You weren't going to do it.
This one's easy. Like, you gave me plus money here. Like, him playing week 1, it's in my odds, Danger.
Would you say it was plus 430?
Yes.
I like value.
Wait a second. I got it right here, okay? So the odds of him retiring plus 430.
Yeah.
Minus 650 right now on FanDuel for retiring.
Minus 650.
Yeah.
For him not retiring.
Let me read. The odds of leaning toward him not retiring, okay? Minus 650 on him not retiring.
Okay.
Plus 430 on him retires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a value play. It's a long shot, but I'm taking it. In the history of the sports bar, these box wine bets have played out in my favor, which is why your wife doesn't want you betting with me anymore. She don't want you playing around anymore, Gino.
AI says there's an 89% chance he'll continue to play.
The thing that you were saying about Guy Code, keeping this on the down low, not telling the executive producer, I would love to live in a world where that actually still existed, because
You know
the person that the I just thought you should know person is the worst person in your life. The person who hears what we're saying and wants to tell somebody, hey, I just thought you should know they were saying this about you.
Or, hey, I just thought you should know. They mentioned this business even though they don't advertise, but
just wanted you to know. Hey, just wanted you to know what they said about you. Hey, executive producer. You know, one of our regulars could be this kind of a weasel that would pull the executive producer aside and say, hey, just thought you should know.
No.
Gene's got a box wine bet going with danger.
No, I haven't checked the social on that, all right? Number one. And number two, is that different than Guy Code? Or just Guy Code kind of extends?
Oh, Guy Code, I think in this case, you're asking for grace. You're asking for the regulars to keep this on the down low. We do not talk about this.
When
the executive producer is around, she doesn't hear about this.
She could be out Thursday at Three Heads. I would expect her to. And she will talk, she'll talk to John. She'll talk to all her regulars. Guy Code, everybody, okay? Nobody brings this up to her. You're not doing me a solid.
Might just pull her aside and be like, hey, I just thought you should know.
No.
That last box of wine that I won from Gene was delicious. Just leave it at that. Hey, I just thought you should know. Thank you, hero. Thank you for blowing us in, you hero. Hope you feel better about yourself. I just thought you should know. The worst. Wow, what a fun conversation with Ryan Talbot when you explore all of these pre-draft visits and what it might mean for the Buffalo Bills a week from tonight.
It's interesting because when pre-draft visits, it's for the high picks. We're not talking the fifth, sixth, rounds there. Bills don't have anything in the seventh. Like, you're talking about guys that go up, and between Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, Dawson Knox, like, there is a pattern here. What about bringing in Chris Paul's son?
Yeah, Pooh. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but those are guys that I think could fall to the mid to late rounds. And if you have designs on Sean Dolak at linebacker, yeah, get to know the guy. Have him in more than once. Have him in for the local workout. And I think that's all healthy. We talked to Dan Fates in the 3 o'clock hour. He planted his flag. He and Catalana both have planted their flag on Ole Miss corner Trey Amos as the Bills selection.
He plays both, man and zone. Good conference, good player. Yes, at pick 30, it might be a little high, but ideally, Danger, I would think you would want one of those two space-eating tackles, whether it's the guy from Oregon, the guy from Michigan, and then get your corner. And some of the mocks I've seen Amos falling to the Bills in the second round. If you can get defensive tackle isn't, per se a starter, but two guys that are major contributors there on that side of the ball, if not three.
Our pal Thor Nystrom at Fantasy Life put out his Thor 500, where he lists all his top 500 prospects in order. He has Trey Amos as his cornerback 6, and he comps him to A.J. Terrell. Another name that we've heard, a couple names that we've heard the Bills showing interest in here in the pre-draft process, Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky, Thor's CB4. He comps him to L'Jarius Sneed. Now, we heard from Fates that the red flag on Hairston is not a good tackler. Now, if that's the case, then chances are the Bills won't be interested. Siobhan Ravel Jr. out of East Carolina, recovering from his ACL last season. He's got Thor has him listed as a CB5 with a pro comp of Antonio Cromartie.
I think the Browns GM reads Thor too, because the Browns GM this afternoon comped the pick out of Colorado to Shohei Ohtani, just like Thor did.
Well, if it is Travis Hunter at 2 for the Cleveland Browns, and he plays both ways, and he's listed as cornerback 1 on Thor's 500, then the draft starts at 3 with the Giants and the decision that they have to make. I just don't want Abdul Carter to fall to the Patriots. I don't.
No.
I don't want that. I do not want that. But we'll see. It'll be a week from tonight. And as we do for our pre-draft draft party, we will be at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue live from 3 until 6 in the neighborhood of the arts, hoping for an afternoon like we have today. The sun is out. It's feeling like spring. The vibes are immaculate. The beers are flowing. You know it's always a great time for a kind IPA at Three Heads Brewing, and we will have several waiting for you if you join us a week from today, Thursday afternoon, 3 until 6, and we will get you ready for round 1 of the NFL Draft.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Boy, Musburger, I want him back.
It's almost here.
Yeah. We got our guy, Connor Fields, who's an MVP candidate, Rochester Nighthawks, regular season finale against Toronto Saturday night. Before we get to that, shots coming up in the sports bar where what is the atmosphere going to be like tonight in Buffalo? And I'm not talking about, the Bills War Room. This is it for the Sabres. And what does the next 24 hours entail? We can explore that as well. Retirement today from the sports media world as well.
All right, we'll get to that and more next. A round of shots, Connor Fields, Rochester Nighthawks, all before 6 o'clock on The Fan.
You're listening. Sports Update.
We're down to 1 week. 1 week from the NFL draft. The Bills right now picking at number 30 overall. Chris Passo knows the checklist for Buffalo.
For the Bills, last year, 10 selections. This year, they're going in with 10 selections. That is the best way to do exactly what you just said. Keep the team as a playoff or Super Bowl contender throughout a decade. And that's really hard to do in the NFL.
One last game for the Buffalo Sabres. It's tonight. Sabres hosting Philadelphia. Our coverage here on The Fan will begin at 7 o'clock. The Rochester Red Wings in danger of getting no hit. They're in the bottom of the 7th. Game 1 of a doubleheader. It's Worcester leading Rochester 8-0. On the Major League scoreboard, the Pirates beat the Nationals today by a 1-0 score. Diamondbacks over the Marlins 6-4. Mariners over the Reds 11-7. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Connor Fields of the Rochester Nighthawks joins us for last call before 6 o'clock. And before we get to Connor, we get to a round of shots in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia.
So if it's a 7-inning no-hitter, is that really a no-hitter, Danger?
Technically, it's a no-hitter, Gene.
It doesn't feel like that, though.
Well, it doesn't feel like a baseball game because it's only seven innings. It's a no-hitter.
Well, not yet. The Wings still 3 outs to go here for Worcester. And well, Worcester's up 8-0, but if you wanted to go over there, they might let you in.
8-0. No hits.
Not great, Bob.
No. But as we said at the top of the show, baseball, it is a long season.
Sure is.
Is it not? How does tomorrow look for the Sabres on locker cleanout day?
Oh, boy.
Any big news? Any news at all?
Anybody lose their love of the game?
Terry Pegula speak?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Come on. I'm being silly. Well, we can tell you this. The Sabres are not going to finish last in the Eastern Conference. There you go.
Right.
That title goes to Boston. But if visiting Philadelphia wins tonight, Buffalo drops to 15th in the conference. One last time tonight, Sabres hockey on the Fan. Rochester, listen and tell a friend.
Oh, God. Thank God it's over. What does it look like tomorrow? Yeah, who loses their love of the game? Who talks about how much it sucks to lose?
Well, for anybody that is covering the Sabres, and if you're wondering, wait a second, how long is this going on? Because I thought, okay, maybe we could have Paul Hamilton on tomorrow. No. The way this works is everyone on the roster will have a sit-down with Lindy Ruff. And that sit-down could last 5 minutes. It could last an hour. Nobody knows. So literally, this is going to start at 8 in the morning and wrap up who knows at what point. I don't know if we get any news tomorrow.
Well, we'll see. We'll scout and we'll update you on anything that may go on, any fallout from Locker Cleanout Day as the Sabres campaign for 2025 comes to an end.
You know it was a great Masters if 4 days after it, we're still talking about it. Following the final round, Bryson DeChambeau disclosed that Rory McIlroy didn't talk to him at all, gave him the silent treatment. Well, McIlroy says that was the plan going on BBC Radio. The new Masters champ says the game plan he and his sports psychologist came up with going into the tournament, don't talk to anyone on the course at all. And he didn't all week. It wasn't just the final round.
I like it. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with a lot of things that have to do with Rory. I don't like him grabbing a spectator's phone and throwing it into the drink. I don't like what he allegedly did last year. But this I'm okay with. Like, you're out there, you're trying to win, you're trying to compete. You don't have to be friendly with the guy you're competing against.
Tonight is the last night, Danger, without basketball for a long time. Today being the travel day, tomorrow night being the final win and get in games of the play-in tournament in the East. Atlanta hosting Miami, the winner to get Cleveland, and Oklahoma City awaiting the winner tomorrow night's Memphis-Dallas matchup. Dallas getting the win last night over Sacramento.
Who you like?
I will say I'll just take Memphis and then Atlanta, Miami. Who cares?
Yeah.
How about the Heat? Why not?
Yeah, I think the Heat, and I like the Heat, and I like Memphis as well.
Lee Corso is going to retire from ESPN's College Game Day. He's going to turn 90 this coming August. It's a good time to step aside, is it not? He's been with the network since 1987. The headgear segment, he started that in October 95 in a game at Ohio State. Corso, you don't realize he's done this many of them. 286 on 144. That's his record in his 430 selections. His final show will be on August the 30th.
I want to say he has like a 66% winning percentage on the headgear pick, right? And there was one that was classic when he was at Houston, University of Houston against SMU. Do you remember this clip?
No.
He dropped an F-bomb live on TV. He was about to go SMU, and he basically said, F it, and he grabbed the Cougar for Houston, and everybody was just in stitches. And, and he actually admitted it as he's putting on the Cougars headgear. It's a good thing we have the delay. And then, just a great moment. The guy is awesome. Now, if you've watched it in recent years, he's up there. He's 90.
He did, and this is a few years ago, had a stroke, but he battled his way back.
Yeah.
And it's that's part. It's a tough guy. Do they retire the bit here?
I they'll have to come up with something else. I mean, you've got plenty of personality with McAfee on that set as well, so I'm sure they'll come up with something. But you'll never replace Lee Corso. He's one of a kind.
Did they ever make it up to Syracuse? I don't believe they did.
Not so fast, my friend. It's just so great.
RIT Men's Hockey introducing their new head coach today. Matt Thomas graduated from the school in 1998. Here's the catch, Danger. He's still working in Providence.
Oh.
He's still the assistant coach there, so he's not going to fully join the Tigers until Providence gets bounced from the upcoming AHL playoffs.
Did you say that to him? Did you say, hey, we're going to wait for you to get bounced from the AHL playoffs before you come here? He's probably saying...
No, I asked the question today. I went to the presser, and it was great. They did a great job rolling it out, and they streamed it to everybody. And, okay, and everybody, who's got questions? I'm like, yeah, so you're still... He was on the bench Friday, and I'm like, are you still with Providence? When do you join? And he's like, well, I can't timeline because it depends on how long the team goes. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
So there you go, RIT fans. You have another reason to root against Providence in the postseason for the AHL.
Yeah, you don't like the Bruins anyways,
No,
right?
right.
Finally, happy birthday to Bill Belichick. He turned 73. 73, that's not a milestone birthday. It's not a big deal, but when you're dating the 24-year-old Flame, she threw a party, Danger. Jordan Hudson wearing a green dress that would go clubbing in, it looked like. And no, there weren't 73 candles on the cake, simply just written on top of the custom-made cake, who gives an S, except the actual word.
That's probably what he said. It's my birthday. Who gives an S? So she put it on a cake. That's cute. It's adorable.
He's whipped.
I think he's just riding it out, man. I don't think it's him being whipped. I think he's just...
Oh, I think he's fully whipped.
I think he's just...
I'd use a stronger phrase.
I don't know. I mean, she's involved in a lot of things, right? Like there's footage of her being there on the field and kind of directing things around because the camera crews are following everybody.
You've got the story of she needs to be CC'd on all emails, which is highly unusual.
Is that for the program or for the show that they're filming? Because I think she's involved in the show that they're filming. I think she's a producer of some sort for the show that they're filming. So she'll get a piece of that. I'm not judging. I will not judge. I'm not going to judge Bill Belichick at this stage of his life after everything that he's done. Happy birthday, Coach. No days off.
No days off. No days off.
So we're going back to the Cape this summer, and I don't know, I love hitting all the different towns. Provincetown being up to, I don't know if we're going to go up to Provincetown, but for the sake of the show, Danger, do I go into her mother's store, the boutique store?
The sex shop.
Yeah, that's what it is. Hey, I'd like to meet Miss Hudson, take a selfie there.
I want some pictures for the show. We got to get to Connor Fields. Man, the Nighthawks hosting Toronto.
Yeah.
Big matchup.
Connor Fields on a tear. Is this the year for the Nighthawks? Well, he's probably not going to answer that question, but, boy, you're feeling confident about this team here, Danger.
Yeah, we'll spend some time with the Rochester Nighthawks and Connor Fields next on The Fan Rochester. In the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia as we welcome you back in. His last call. I don't know that we've ever had the NLL Player of the Week join us in the Sports Bar, but that's what we have in Rochester Nighthawk. Connor Fields, who's joining us now, man. Thank you for the time. Looking forward to this weekend. How you been, Connor?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, definitely can't wait for this weekend. Big game.
Yeah, Toronto coming in now. So for our audience, you can't get the first, you can't get the second. Now, if you win this game, does that mean there would be a home play? You've already clinched a playoff spot, but what about getting a home playoff game here?
Well, yeah, that's definitely the goal. I think it comes down to one or two other games as well. We need one of two teams to lose as well as us getting a win to get that home playoff game. But I think it's such an advantage, first off playing at home, but second off playing in front of our fans. I think they're another level and they bring us, a lot of energy. So it would be awesome to get a home game there, this coming weekend.
Connor, talk a little bit about your last performance here, the performance that got you that NLL Player of the Week honor, the 9 points in a 12-6 win over Ottawa. You were locked in.
Yeah, it's, I think obviously, that seeing a stat like that, it might look as an individual stat, but I think for me, it's all the guys around me. It's, the defense, goaltending, making big stops, letting us play, loose up front. And then, I think up front we have a really, selfless group up there. And it doesn't matter whose night it is. We just all celebrate, for each other. And we all just want to win. So for me, I guess it's a credit to my teammates for, finding me open or finishing on, opportunities and also creating space out there. So I just found myself in a couple, open spots sometimes. And, we all get lucky every once in a while.
Nighthawks taking on Toronto, Blue Cross Arena Saturday, 6 o'clock to start. Connor Fields is our guest, having a heck of a season. And, well, the team right now, hot. I think we could say that. 6 in a row, you're looking to make it 7. And you mentioned how the guys are playing for one another. What are some of the other reasons you would say why this team has been able to put this streak together here, Connor?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. We're kind of, in a rough patch towards the middle of the season. And, I think credit to our coaching staff. They really sat us down and, had those hard conversations with us. And, we kind of all had to look ourselves in the mirror and, figure out what we could do better individually. And obviously our coaching staff, credit to them because, we're very lucky to have them. And they've been giving us great game plans going into each game. But I think just some small adjustments like getting on and off the floor hard, getting through the middle of the floor, just opening up the defense, not letting them be, comfortable and dictating to us. We wanted to be the ones to dictate, the pace of play. So, I think just doing those small little things. And, I think also in the beginning of the season, towards the middle too, it was more, I feel like we were looking a little bit more big picture, ahead. Maybe if we win these next 2 games, then this is where we'll be. And I think that kind of, it wasn't the right way for us, to look at it. We have to, focus on each game at hand. And I think that focusing on each play, each game, has helped us out a lot.
Connor Fields, Rochester Nighthawks, joining us in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Toronto, the opponent this Saturday at Blue Cross Arena. And Connor, in your 9-point explosion against Ottawa, you mentioned one of the keys was goaltending, getting goalie Ryan Hartley back. How much has that helped the team?
Yeah, he's been a huge boost for us. And I think we're very lucky to have the goalies we have, with Hutchie, Hartsey, and, even Orleman back there. We have 3 really good goalies that, could be a starter in this league for sure. And I guess, speaking to Hartley, who you mentioned, he's been lights out for us these past couple games. And, when you have a presence like him or like our other goalies, in net, in a defense like we have, it just allows, everyone else to play loose, play free, and knowing that we have that behind us where, we just have that confidence in them that even if we make a mistake up front, that they'll make up for us. So we're lucky to have, our goalies, our defense, I think it's one unit back there, which has been great.
So the Nighthawks clinched the playoff spot already. If things break correctly, you get a home playoff spot. Rochester at 10-7. Oh, Toronto at 5-11. They're missing the postseason. Just so everybody's clear, this is me talking. I am not shedding a tear, but I don't know. You got guys that want to stick around this league, pride, whatever it is. So I don't expect this team to be running for the bus here. Toronto as an opponent, what do you expect coming up here Saturday night, Connor?
Yeah, I think every game in this league is so hard to win. I think that's how narrow the gap is between, number one in the standings and last place in the standings. So us, for us, we're familiar with Toronto. We've, played them in past years quite a bit. Very physical team, very skilled team, solid on both ends of the floor too. Dangerous in transition. So that's something we really have to watch out for as well. We know it's going to be a battle, right? It doesn't matter, where we're ranked, where they're ranked. At the end of the day, it's another game in this league, and if we don't bring our A game, things might not go our way. So we're focused. We know what's at stake, but we also know how good of a team they are. Aside from their record, so we're excited for the opportunity to get better as a group, but also hopefully come out with a win.
Well, we love having you here in Rochester. You are, of course, a native of Buffalo. Are you a Bills fan? Do you have a take on what the Bills should do here in the draft, Connor?
Oh man, I wish I knew. No, I'm excited that they're it's obviously a fun team to watch, and very passionate fan base too. So we'll see. I mean, they're what one player away from, I feel like, from a Super Bowl. It's been a fun time to be a Bills fan for sure. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Connor, you got to get your cliches right. They're never just one player away from a Super Bowl. That's what we hear always and every year. It's not just one player that's going to get them there. It's a team effort. You know that. You play a team sport, man.
I know. I feel like it's the motto out here, with the Bills or whatnot. Next year's the year, and I feel like it could be, right. And that's the exciting part about it. And I think you're right. It's not just one player, but I think they have, they obviously have the reigning MVP, which never hurts. So I think hopefully it's a fun year.
Well, we may be talking to the MVP here. We don't know. 118 points. That is fourth right now in the league. Nighthawks, Toronto, your appetizer coming up for the postseason, but certainly invite you down on Saturday night. Connor, looking forward to coming down. Thanks for your time today, bud.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You got it, Connor. Good luck on Saturday. Stay healthy. The Nighthawks hosting Toronto Saturday night at Blue Cross Arena. We invite you to go out and see them. They're exciting. They're on a heater. 6 straight games. Postseason bound for the second straight season.
I would love it. That would be a win for Rochester. If it wasn't the Bandits who they pump up. Oh, we got these great fans. Blah, blah. No. We're the sports town over here.
That's right. Oh, man, if we get a postseason matchup with the Bandits, yes.
Road
Sign
trip,
me up.
yeah.
Let's go. Appreciate Connor Fields stopping by the sports bar. Don't forget to check out the Nighthawks at Blue Cross Arena against Toronto on Saturday night. If you missed Dan Fates at 13 Web Sports, Buffalo Plus. If you missed Ryan Talbot, Syracuse.com. Lots of Buffalo Bills pre-draft talk. And maybe a little bit of Aaron Rodgers talk in there as well. Both of those conversations available wherever you get your podcasts. Search out the Sports Bar. Or you can go back and listen to any part of the show you may have missed in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. The Sabres season finale tonight at 7. Before we get to that, thankfully, JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester. Have a great night.